Prabh Dhaliwal, a new and upcoming IFBB and Olympian coach who coached Andy Paredes for his 3 back-to-back pro wins in 3 weeks and his Olympia debut.
But I told him, man, your body is really responsive right now, and based on your blood work, which he had done post-Olympia, his blood work looked almost perfect. And honestly, man, we ramped up gear pretty hard right out the gate. In totality, insulin with him was to counteract if we're using GH in the mornings. If you have the genetics for it, this kid went from 162 pounds on men's physique stage to 176 pounds at nationals, growing on milligrams of testosterone. He put on April to December 14 pounds of stage tissue.
BPC and TV combo mix. I actually put it somewhere last night that I never tried. I'm gonna experiment with that.
That sounds so wrong. He could push his body fat a little bit higher in the off seasons compared to guys who aren't enhanced. Like natural guys do need a little bit extra to push some more tissue on. I don't mind them getting a little bit softer than guys who are enhanced. I definitely would not be the coach who would take him to open. If you told me tomorrow I want to be an open bodybuilder, me being his friend, I wouldn't want to see him go through that to get there.
What do you feel like that? What's up, bro homies? So the new Trensparent shirt is finally out, and I just wanted to thank you guys so much because, to be honest, I don't know if I've expressed my thanks enough to you guys, but this podcast has probably been the most meaningful thing that I think I've ever created, I've ever really delved my time into, and I just wanted to thank you guys for giving me this opportunity because I really would not be here if it wasn't for all of y'all. And as cliche as it may all sound, the power to be able to have a voice and discuss these issues that we have all dealt with has been something that I think I felt a lot of fulfillment through because of just how much we've been able to connect with each other. So we finally have the shirt, the hoodie, and the pants all on this site. Basically, and the site is acons, AYKONS.com/collections/transparent. And 3 pieces there for you to get. So we try to make it as cheap as reasonably possible because the company that we work with does upcharge extra, quite a bit extra for the base price for shipping and handling and packaging. And this is all everything that we kind of needed to have implemented because, to be honest with y'all, I have never dealt with clothes before, never dealt with any of this crap before, so I have no absolute clue what I'm doing. But basically, because of the prices, I felt bad that the shipping was expensive, so I have a code Nile for you guys to use to get 10% off of everything that you're buying. So hopefully that kind of helps compensate just a little bit. But because of this, not having enough product is going to be an issue, and they'll be able to send out your product to you within 2 days, and then the shipping should be about 7 to 12 days, at least as according to the site. So maximum, you'll get your thing in 2 weeks. If you guys need anything, please feel free to reach out. I'll be here. I'll answer your questions. DM, this is the community, so I'll be here the entire time. Yeah, I really appreciate you guys because I wouldn't be here without you. So thank you guys so much, and let's get this ball rolling. Keep training hard.
How have you guys been? What have you guys been up to? Congrats on all the success recently, by the way.
Thanks, bro. I mean, just started prep again already, so back in the swing of things, and just nothing really new. You know how it is, just pulling down a little bit and hoping to see some improvements, and got the shows picked out. So now just kind of mapping out the season, and with the new point system, we really want to make sure we're strategic about what shows we're hitting, and make sure we have a smooth prep. So other than that, just staying on top of the YouTube, just grinding the content, as you know.
Yeah, I just saw a post on Instagram like yesterday. It was like announcing Andy's commitment to like 2 different shows. Was it 2 big shows too?
Yeah.
What were the shows again?
New York and Pittsburgh.
Okay, that's what I thought. Holy shit, bro! Those are some big fucking shows.
Yeah, but Niall had to steal it from me, bro. He stole all my momentum. The next day, they posted One Punch is doing that shit too.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I figured he was going to do that.
I mean, now that guy, right?
Yeah. Shit, you should.
Yeah. Now you got to make your announcement, bro.
Dude, I had some comments that were like, "Dude, we heard Fuad and the boys talking about you on his podcast. Like, we're so proud of you." And I'm like, "Bro, it's not me."
Oh, Niall.
How's your reverse / off season coming, man? I know we last talked in San Diego, so it's been a little bit.
Yeah, no, I just finished off my health phase, 12 weeks. Okay. 12 nice, non-juicy weeks. Kind of crazy. Kind of felt amazing though during it, to be honest.
Yeah. So when you guys did a health phase, you guys are actually like TRT completely just clearing out.
Well, so I didn't do the health phase with Patrick. I told him, "Hey man, I'm a peace out for 12 weeks." I've also been going through a lot of shit and a pretty turbulent.
For sure.
pretty turbulent life and like planning out my future right now. So it's been kind of hard for me to even like stay stable. And I've been traveling consistently to figure out where I'm going to go next. But I decided personally to just come off completely, just to like, just for shits and giggles, just to see, just to take some HCG and HMG for FSH for my fertility, and then just test out where my test levels was going to be. Yeah, see how I'd feel. So I think it's really just what happened is I believe personally that it's best to just cruise on like a test on like a TRT type level, maybe slightly higher than TRT. I know there's some guys like good old Joe who are just so fucking massive he has to go to like 300 for his cruise, but I personally believe that's the best route of action. But I think it got in my head that I've talked to a lot of like old school approaches where they're just like, dude, I just come off completely, and when I come back on, I blow the fuck up. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, dude, what if that's like, there's a little secret in that? Like, if you just come off completely, then your response is even crazier when you come back on. But to be honest, I jumped off and my test was 191, and I was like, this fucking sucks. So I just jumped on test.
Yeah. So after your 12 weeks of being on, a fertility, plan, so it came back at 191 after trying to get things kickstarted again.
Yeah, total test was 191, so it wasn't super great. Then again, I could have probably waited a few more weeks, so I did ride out a few more weeks afterwards, but I didn't really feel much better throughout that process, and I wasn't going to get my blood work done again 2 weeks later, so then we just jumped on test.
Oh, smart.
So
man, smart.
half the health phase was no test, the other stuff that I was talking about, and then the other half of the health phase was 160 test.
That makes sense. Yeah, man, I think that's super smart, especially like with a lot of athletes. I'll do that, with the guys who are bigger, going on like a little bit of a higher TRT dose, 300 mgs, 250 for guys who have to maintain tissue, and then retesting their bloods and kind of seeing where everything's at, making sure they're fully healthy to go again. Especially with like, even a guy like Andy, like having that ability to not lose tissue at 300 milligrams. It has showed us over the last couple of years that we're able to stay at that low of a dose and still maintain his physique essentially.
Yeah. I mean, playing devil's advocate, to be honest with you, even being on just 160, I do not feel like I lost very much tissue at all. And now that I jump back on, I try to stay as lean as possible. I even use the microdose of both Rota, and then I microdosed tirzepatide when I was on my travels because I had that prescribed. And I like just going back on. So I told Patrick that I need a month, a little bit longer, because I'm going to be moving either to Vegas or Austin. And so the next few weeks I'm going to be traveling consistently. I don't have a place to like really stay put. But I started taking 350 tests and 300 primo this week. And my weight's already going up, even though I'm injecting every day, which is kind of like, I'm kind of surprised at how fast the response is already. But like now my weight's up at 187.5, whereas my stage weight was 183. And during my health phase, there was periods of time where I dropped down to 179.
Okay.
So the fullness came back almost instantly. The leg growth, the leg size is like the same, I think. The upper body and the arms shrank like crazy for sure. But like,
probably just fullness.
Just give it a few weeks and stuff. And as long as strength comes back up, I feel like technically in a few weeks, it'll look like I haven't lost anything.
100%. 100%.
Okay, Niall's back on the sauce. There we go.
Are you?
I missed him.
Are you planning on competing later in the year now? Obviously, like taking a growth phase and then kind of,
I don't think it's in my best interest, man. 17 pounds below the weight cap is a lot.
Yeah, sure.
I don't want to be at that big of a disadvantage.
Yep.
Yeah. But what about you guys? What's your weight now, Andy? Because you had like, 6 to 7 pounds left in your weight cap, didn't you?
It's not looking like that this year. It's looking like we're going to have to burn off some tissue.
That's fucking sick. Okay, wait. Yeah, what's your weight first before I ask?
This morning, I got back up to 248, dropped to 246 there for a day. And then Prabh was like, yeah, we're dropping too fast. Like, we need to add some food back in, because we were like sitting between 253 and like 255 for a good probably 2 months there. Really let it settle, really let it stick. And then hot back on the sauce, pulled the food down a little bit, and body is just really responsive. So that's a good thing. And just pulled the carbs by like 100, 150 on training days. And then the weight started to move pretty quickly. So, and then we're already seeing a pretty big visual difference as far as just like looking a little bit tighter, a little bit fuller, drugs coming back in, holding a little bit less water. So that's good. But I'm still like 248. So I still got to find a way to hit that 227 cap. So
Damn.
Well, his last offseason, he had got up to like 243. So we knew we needed about 7 pounds of tissue. And my logic is if we could get him to about 250 or 251 this year, get those 7, 8 pounds, but be a little bit in a leaner composition than last offseason, that would probably yield about 7 pounds of tissue. But obviously with him, man, I feel like since he's like a machine, I always tell my athletes, like he's able to nail his reverse perfectly. We checked in every single day since the Olympia, daily, just making changes, small adjustments for glucose levels and all that good stuff with insulin in play. He was able to make a lot of progress there. And now he actually just finished up his health phase as well. He was about 7 to 8 weeks off, got his bloods back and everything's pretty much perfect. So it sets us up for a long season, or as long as we need to, essentially get that Olympia qualification. But this year I'm predicting depleted, he'll be about 229 to 230, and then we'll have to manipulate some things to get him to that 227 top. While last year he was 219 and 220, which is, even for him winning shows, at a huge disadvantage in my opinion against guys who are capped out.
What was your weight cap again?
227.
227. Okay. Yeah.
Remember that story I told you when we were training at the Young LA gym about One Punch? I was like, yeah, this is when I knew I was behind, because we have the same weight cap. I was on stage at like 223. He was on stage at like 243, and we have the same weight cap. So I'm like,
it's fucking wild.
20-pound difference.
So I was also explaining to Andy, right, when he had told me the same thing. He's like, One Punch went on stage at the 243, and I was like, dude, like he was shooting for that they had gone in with the intention that he was going to have the 234 cap. And then when he tied it in, they pulled it down to the 227, make manipulations. So it was essentially he was lean at 231, but they had to pull him to 227. Then he has a lot more room to play with to fill back out.
One, it's kind of crazy to me how much One Punch was able to fill out before the show. Like, how many pounds is that for him?
That's, dude, like from his depleted weight, I think it was like 231. He posted like 13 pounds of added.
Yeah. How the fuck are you able to do that without?
But he made the weight 227. So I mean, most of that's going to be fluid. So at one point he was 227 2 days out.
That's insane.
Well, I mean,
I'm pretty sure I only go up like maybe 3 pounds.
Yep, for sure. But I feel like these guys who are, right at the cap, since they're having to pull so much fluids out in the peak, they're able to reintegrate that, and then, that's a lot of weight that's going to go back up just from putting fluids back in. Because obviously a lot of these guys are depleting into the weigh-in. You're not drinking much.
But just playing devil's advocate, I mean, I hear most of the time from coaches that it's harder. The more you have to pull down, the harder it is for you to fill out.
Yep. Yeah, for sure, right? Because then you have to manipulate fluids, and then you got to see, like, if you start reintegrating fluids, is the guy going to start getting watery? Is he going to start holding now? Is the food going to start going to the places you need it to? Like, all those things like play a role. So it is hugely impressive on One Punch, like, on him to get up 12, 13 pounds and still have Olympia level conditioning and obviously make his mark this year.
Yeah, that's a little bit nutty. You guys also just brought up a bunch of questions. I heard the word insulin. I heard you blowing up.
That just opens up a can of worms, huh?
Dude, I was literally just I was watching one of Even Bodybuilding's little drama videos, and it was the one on Mike Sommerfeld. Like, did he actually cheat? Like, he just posted the other day. I was hanging out with Mike, and I'm seeing some of these comments, and I'm just going to be like straight up real with people. Like, they can judge whatever they want to or have their own opinions. But I was training with Mike, and obviously the IFBB measures me at 5'7.5". So do my doctors, and I've said this for years. And that's why my weight cap is 197. It all like makes sense, right? Yep. And training next to Mike, he's a little bit taller than me, and he told me he was 5'8.5". So that makes all the sense to me. So people commenting that Mike is 5'6" is kind of nuts. I don't know what Mike said in that video, or if he actually said that, why he said that, whether or not that was like, what is it called? Fucking satire or not. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know what he was thinking. But Mike is definitely, if I'm definitely 5'7.5", Mike is definitely around 5'8.5". And then he was saying that normally what they do is they do some like disc uncompression. So his discs are hydrated by the time he, by the time he weighs in and measures his height. And then his height is 5. Then he gets measured at 5'9". So that's a half an inch more, which gives him, I don't know how many pounds that is. But because they do that, I mean, there's a lot of guys that try to do that, right? Like freaking openly said on my podcast, Michael DeBoule said that he did that and he gained 7 pounds in his weight cap. I think it was 7. And then Terrence is trying that. Dude, I have a fucking inversion table in my garage in its box because I wanted to do that fucking shit.
100%,
I still haven't even opened it, but
half an inch to an inch makes a huge difference.
Right.
You could be a bodybuilder.
right. And then obviously because the IFBB decided that, okay, if you have like 3 big shows or 3 shows that you're consistently, or maybe 2 out of those 3 that you're consistently measuring this height, then they're going to sit you at that height. So they set Mike at that height. And then obviously right before the show, because of all the drama and the Brazilians posting things, they're like, all right, we're going to re-height. And then he had to like lose all that weight for Olympia last year.
So I'm very curious this year what they're going to do, because from what I heard, correct me if I'm wrong, Andy, that everybody who was heighted in at the Olympia is going to stay that height the whole year. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if Mike's going to get a re-height at the Arnold now.
No, he's not. He's only going to get re-heighted again at the Olympia.
Okay.
So anyone who does the shows this year, if you did the Olympia, for example, me, when I go to New York, they're going to be like, okay, at the Olympia, you heighted in at 5'11". So that's what we're measuring you at now.
Okay. I wonder if he knows that, because I feel like when we were just talking, and I was just in Vegas like a week ago. So when we were talking a week ago, he seemed like he wasn't totally aware of whether or not he'd be re-heighted or not.
I mean, I hope they re-height him, man. Why not, right? Give him an opportunity at least to see his height, because at the end of the day, as fans and coaches, we want to see all these guys at their absolute best. And like it is what it is, right? Like obviously I would like to see Mike at that fully peaked out version of himself, like we saw at the Arnold Classic, which was a good combination of fullness and conditioning. So I hope we re-height him, to give him that opportunity at least.
I mean, I know it's also not totally fair, but I think it's kind of tough that a lot of these guys go through this crazy like 3 to 1 month process of hydrating their discs. Like he was telling me the entire fucking process, and it was crazy. I didn't understand half of it, to be honest. But there's a lot of work that he does, like a lot,
for
that. So I mean, it's kind of tough, honestly, to I don't know, just to have that.
And it's a risk to play too. If Mike just assumes like, okay, I know I'm 5'9", I'm sure they'll just re-height me. Like we're going to come in at this target weight. Imagine he gets to the show and they're like, no, bro, like we're not going to re-height you. Then he has to do what he did at the Olympia. He has to pull down another 6-7 pounds, and that probably diminishes the look to some extent.
Crazy, man. When we were at the Olympia this year, it was my first Olympia ever going to, and going as a coach, being younger guys. I saw guys out there sprinting out of the room like, damn, I missed weight. I need to go ahead and, do X, Y, and Z. Some guys are laying on the floor, stretching their legs out, people pulling them just trying to get any inch, half an inch, whatever they can.
Yeah, right. Everybody's fucking trying to do that. So at least most people are that know that they have a chance. So me, I'm just fucked, man. I'm just short for it sucks. Sometimes I tell my homie Dion, like my best friends are all fucking tall, so I just tell them if I just had 2 extra inches, my life would just be so substantially better, brother.
Well, for you, like you said, you're 17 pounds under the cap.
2 inches everywhere. Huh?
You're 17 pounds under the cap, right? Like, dude, you have so much potential in classic physique, especially like once you add to the areas you want to. Like 17 pounds is a lot of pounds. I always joke with people, even like the first year Andy competed as a pro, he went on stage, I think like 212 depleted, where he got 4th at his pro debut and then 8th at Legion the week after. Just adding on 8 pounds after that in a year, that goes from finishing 4th and 8th to winning 3 pro shows. Like 8 pounds of tissue is a lot of muscle on a frame.
That's pretty sick, dude. And 3 pro shows in a row is wild.
Well, the cool thing about Niall is he has a crazy back and he has crazy legs. So it's one thing, like you still may be under the cap, but your best body parts are the body parts that will win you a show. I'm
getting so confused every time you say Niall.
Sorry, bro. What do you want me to call you?
Who? Me? Me? I fucking I appreciate
I'll call
that.
you Goku.
I appreciate that a lot, dude. We'll see how it goes. I'm just playing it by ear. I don't have any expectations. I'm just going to try to do my best. And plus, I also did this video of me posing with Sommerfeld. And bro made me look like I don't even lift. It's wild. When he does his front lat spread, it's the craziest V, and just absolutely unproportioned that I've ever seen in my entire life.
It also shows that not all tissue is created equally, man. I remember Andy showed me a picture of him in One Punch backstage, and it's like, dude, they're at the same weight cap, and then you look at the two physiques, hand in hand, and you go, one's tissue looks so dense and so hard. Not that Andy doesn't have that dense tissue, but obviously, like, once you're at the Olympia level, man, in my opinion, the top 5 guys are on another level. Top 10, you fall into a category of really conditioned, great shape and structure. 15 to 20, like, are all going to be maxed out weight cap wise. And then, so there's so many different variations of what a 227-pound bodybuilder could look like.
Yeah. Yeah, it's truth. I want to ask you guys, because obviously, Andy, you've fucking blown up in the last few years. And even since our last shows together, you fucking blew the fuck up out of nowhere. I found it really interesting that you guys took this approach, because I think most coaches like to take a health phase around this period of time after they do a round of shows. But you guys decided to experiment with a rebound this time, right? Mm-hmm. And this actually worked for you too. Like, it didn't work as well for me, but I found it pretty crazy when I saw you in person, like a few weeks after you started it.
Yep. So the main thing with him was, honestly, personally, myself as a coach, I actually don't really like to do the whole rebound with PEDs in play. But since he was only on prep for a short amount of time, like for the Olympia, we only prepped for 8 to 10 weeks. Like he had 1 to 3 pro shows. He had taken 6 to 8 weeks off of PEDs just on TRT, prep for the Olympia for 8 weeks. And then we had decided it was either 2 things. We're either going to take this 10 weeks to grow post-Olympia, because we've only been on cycle for 8 weeks, or get a quick health phase and then push into an off season. But I told him, I was like, man, your body is really responsive right now. And based on your blood work, which he had done post-Olympia, his blood work looked almost perfect. So I was like, the perfect opportunity for us to now push. And honestly, man, we ramped up gear pretty hard right out the gate, to be transparent. Like, I think in totality, Andy can correct me if I'm wrong, I like to be transparent about this stuff, because I don't I'm not holding back on what we did. It's like, I think we ran a total of oils.
1.8 grams.
Yeah. So we pushed it pretty hard off the onset. And the goal was to slowly increase food while increasing, obviously, fullness, muscle in the areas we needed. Like, the main areas I had identified for Andy was we needed more back. I wanted more tricep. And I think you could never have enough quad sweep. I wanted a little bit more flair on the quads.
Damn. On Andy, too. That's crazy.
I'm sure, because, I wanted to make the genetically, when I look at Andy's physique, he doesn't have the smallest waistline, even though he has a phenomenal vacuum. So we want to accentuate, the X frame even more by having sweeping quads. Because I feel like from the back, from the hamstring and glutes area, he's very dominant. Those hamstrings get dug out really hard and dry. So identifying the tricep, the back, and then, the quads from the front, I feel like now have added the tissue to those areas without sacrificing a bigger waistline and really, really polishing up his physique. So I told Andy, I was like, man, the goal, it's crazy how it played out so perfectly, because I was telling him, I was like, I want to get you to 252. Like, right after the Olympia, I was like, let's 10 to 12 week push phase and let's get you to the 252. Right when he ended the offseason, he was at 255. And obviously you saw him, his composition was still very, very good. At that weight, still
that's
had
what I was super impressed with.
Glutes, still had like lines in his quads. The only thing he lost was some hardness. And obviously, once some certain drugs come out, that happens to everybody. Obviously, we weren't using as much AI anymore. So him to be able to do that was super impressive.
Bro's still on his shit, fucking eating.
Always, man. And that's one thing I tell people. They're always like, I'll have other clients ask, like, man, how do I do it like him? And I'm like, dude, I don't think you guys should even compare and contrast, because he's been doing this since he's been 16. Like, I'd known Andy for probably now 9 years, before coaching him. Like, I had known him as a friend, and he's been, packing Tupperware in Ziploc bags and taking him to high school. Like, he's been about it since then.
It's fire. Proud of you, bro.
I think the main reason that Prabh left out is why we did the rebound was because we how we looked at the Olympia next to these guys. We both sat there and thought, yeah, we should probably push here a little bit. We got some. we're really far behind. Fuck it, bro. Let's just run it.
And that's where I'm a little bit different from Andy, right? Even from you now as an athlete, right? You guys probably go to these shows, and Andy goes to these shows, and sometimes he's like, I feel like I like to say very even kill with the process. Like, understand, like, I wasn't disappointed that Andy got 34th to 35th at the Olympia. That's your first Olympia ever. You're standing next to the best in the world. You're 7 to 10 pounds under the cap. Like, we have a lot of opportunity to still grow and get better. Just be happy for the first one. You made it there. And now this year, the goal is to progress. Like, can we get into that top 20 this year with these 10 pounds added? If we can, that's phenomenal. after that, a year after that, another year, you refine the physique, you get better in the areas you need to. Even at New York and Pittsburgh, going into these shows, our goal is to obviously make a mark, but it's about being very realistic on, with those 10 pounds added, we need to understand where we were this last year. And as long as we're progressing and playing our own game, that's all that matters.
Damn. Okay. Yeah, man, with 10 pounds, I would be surprised if you didn't get top 20 with 10 pounds on that frame, especially in the right places.
Back. And then we'd be cooking something up.
Yeah.
Sure. If I could just trade, like when we trained back, I was like, you see what I'm saying? This is what I need right here. And you were back.
It's one of those things I appreciate about you guys and you as a coach, brother, too, how open you guys are about it. And also, I think it's pretty valuable for the audience and pretty important that they know that, like, you guys aren't very shy about your doses either. Like, normally you hear a lot of, and I know that there's always a small percentage of people in the audience that are always skeptical of whatever doses people say. So sometimes it's almost like, what's the point? But, the reason, like, I love having this podcast is kind of like a Reddit forum where you can see everybody's account
100%.
of what they're taking. Obviously, their identity isn't connected to it, so maybe people are a little bit more suspicious of whether or not it's true or not. But I mean, from what you guys were telling me the doses were, especially the cruise dose, I was like, damn, that's some real bodybuilder shit, dude.
Sure, yeah, especially with even a guy like Andy. Like, I always joke with people, I'm like, dude, what people don't realize is how big of a person he is in person. Obviously,
yeah,
he looks
you are.
short,
You're fucking massive, and you're tall as hell too.
A big human being. And then even outside of that, man, I think one of the game changers in Andy's physique since I took over, because I started working with Andy, it's been about 2.5 years now, Andy.
November 2023.
Yeah, so it's been about like 2 years and a couple months. And honestly, after the first year, the objective was to get him, big as possible in the off season. It wasn't about staying lean. It was just getting as big as possible. And I think doing that first prep with him, we actually lost some tissue. But I was personally okay with that because I knew with his mentality and the way he works that even if we lost 2 to 3 pounds of tissue that first year prepping, once he reverses out, that tissue is going to come back. And now we're going into the next season to be even more successful because we got to 265 his first year. And then from there, got to 212 on stage. And right when he reversed out, I feel like we reacclimated those 2 to 3 pounds of tissue and then grew a little bit more going into this season. And the biggest game changer, honestly, man, and people don't like the drug sometimes, was personally, in my opinion, insulin played a big role in it. And it
Is
wasn't
that how you feel too, Andy?
Especially in the prep, because when we first added it in, it was for this first season. So leading up to the first pro win, it was like 16 weeks out, we added it in. And I just noticed I was able to keep the food high and just get a lot leaner. I feel like normally we would have to push the food pretty low. I'm like usually a low food, high cardio kind of person in prep. And I just felt like it kept the body really, really responsive throughout the whole prep to where, if I had one refeed, it was like, okay, I might need another one here. The body was just flowing really, really well. And then I feel like it allowed me to maintain a really, really good level of tissue, and I didn't really have to push too hard.
That's kind of crazy. You don't really hear that very often, especially during the prep phase.
We used it for an extended period of time with him, especially the number one thing I identified was he started pricking his finger pretty frequently, and we started to notice he naturally just has higher glucose levels.
Okay.
So of course, I kind of added in supplements, the metformins, the berberines, but I was like, let's just try insulin. Let's go ahead and give it a go. You haven't used it, and I didn't use insulin in the sense of I'm going to give him insulin. Now we're going to start eating a bunch more food. It was like, let's keep the food where it's at and let's add in insulin just to help you partition nutrients better. And once we started doing that, man, it was crazy. His body started to obviously absorb nutrients, stores better and all that good stuff. But within that, his weight stopped going down. His weight would just hold and he would use the food much better and he would just get leaner every week. Like there was a point last where he was 243 to 247, like for 6 to 8 weeks. And he would ask me and be like, Andy gets a little bit in his head as well as an athlete. He would ask me and be like, dude, are you sure we're okay going to the show? And I'm like, dude, I'm not basing anything off the scale. I'm visually looking at you every day. As long as I'm seeing visual improvements, that's all I care about. The judges aren't going to ask us, what's your weight? How much stage weight did you lose? X, Y, and Z. All they care about is the final physique presented. And is that, conditioned enough? Does that have the muscularity we're looking for and all that good stuff?
I did want to preface, we're talking about Lantus here. We're not talking about Humalog. So
how is the insulin structured?
So I like to use insulin AM, Lantus in the morning, just to, obviously it's a longer acting insulin. It'll spread throughout the whole day. And then if needed, I will add in Humalog pre-training, depending on glucose levels. But obviously, if anybody is using insulin under me, they're pricking their finger consistently. AM pre-training. I don't like to do the whole let's just shoot in the dark and just prescribe something like that, because it is very dangerous if used incorrectly. So the main thing is with Andy, it was mostly just, like we used it AM, fasted, and then, provide that cover throughout the whole day. But some clients I'll use Humalog pre-training as well if needed.
Okay, so you never use Humalog, Andy?
We only used it on our carb loads like one day out from the show when we're loading like 800 grams of carbs, 1,000 grams of carbs the day before, a little bit of Humalog for like two or three of the meals.
Okay. And you guys don't ever feel like you get watery when you're using insulin pre-carb?
No.
I understand most people, there's a lot of people that feel that you get more watery if your blood glucose is growing higher and higher during your carb up phase. So it would make sense that you don't. But I feel like for me, I don't know. I feel like it depends on your genetics. Like I feel like there's darker skinned people that isn't always totally true with.
100%, man. That's where, I always joke with people, even as the athlete, you want to ensure you give the specific athlete the best protocol you can. Like, for example, Andy, since he's first started bodybuilding, has always been a dry and hard guy. Genetically, that's been his bread and butter, getting in super good condition and being dry and hard. That's why even for him, using a drug like Superdrol works so well, because he's already dry and hard. I don't want to add in more drugs to get him drier now, because that skin texture is already very polished. I need to make up for those 7 pounds that were under the cap with a drug that's going to make him, look like he's bursting at the seams.
Okay. So how did you structure the meals and the macronutrients if you're taking Lantus?
So meal wise, so I'm actually a little bit different in the sense, most of his meals like he'll start with the AM meal, be about almost 60 to 80 carbs. Meal 2 will go into a pre-training meal. Carbohydrate wise, I'll make that meal pretty big, his pre-training meal. But protein wise, I'll keep it a little bit lower. Like, for example, I won't do like a scoop and a half isolates or 6 ounces of chicken. I'll only do 1 scoop of protein there, just to keep digestion in a good spot. Therefore, he's not feeling bloated during training, keeping his weights tighter during training. And then, the rest of the nutrients like pre-workout, post-workout, and intra-workout are the main sources of carbohydrates I want to plan around. The rest, I'll just apply where needed.
Okay. Well, do you happen to know what your total macronutrient ratios were for the day?
Yeah. So even right now, like Andy's eating a lot of food.
Macronutrients, actually. Yeah.
He's like, I just changed his plan recently. I had to re-up his food. And this is him like dropping weight consistently. He's at 280 protein, 650 carbs, and 61 fats.
Damn, 650 carbs on prep.
And at the end of his off season, he got up to almost 850 to 900 carbs. And he was not holding, like if I like dropped his carbs at 50 carbs, he would start to plummet. Like his weight would just start dropping.
That is wild. Andy, I think you're still muted, by the way. Holy shit, that's crazy. How low did your food go last prep?
Well, honestly,
260, 260.
I think like 224, 225 when we were really digging, like for the first couple. But then once we did the reverse out of the first 3, and then we were kind of prepping for the Olympia, food was like pretty high, like 350 is the lowest I got.
Damn.
And then like rest days would be like 220 or something.
Do you happen to know why it was higher for the second time around? Is that because you kind of
just stayed leaner throughout? Body was still responsive.
Okay. Damn. Yep. It's wild. I have not used insulin during a prep, but
we honestly, we've used it for a consistent period of time now, and it works really well. Especially, obviously, like everybody's different. I would like check your glucose levels, make sure everything looks good on that end. Because if you're already, 75, 80-ish range, there's no point in using it. You're already so insulin sensitive. It doesn't even make sense at that point. Obviously, somebody like Andy, who when we started pricking his fingers at 94, 95, it's like I realized we could get a lot of use out of that drug if we do it properly.
Okay. Huh.
Yeah.
Because even for myself, man, with a guy like Andy, I think the
You see me cooking?
Light bulbs going off in your head right now. It's like, okay, this is what I've been missing.
Myself, like Andy talking about his food got to 224 carbs. It probably did get that low. I don't remember exactly the number, but we were doing refeeds probably at that point. Like he was eating like back-to-back days of 600, 700 carbs because, once we got his metabolism recranking, it was at that point, it was smooth sailing. It's like we pulled out cardio 2.5 weeks out, freshened up the legs going into these shows. Even right now, like I personally don't think Andy will have to get over 25 to 30 minutes of cardio a day, this whole prep. I don't. Like just because his food is where it is, like he only has to lose at this point, 20 pounds before I think he'll be ready. So it's like we have so many tools to play with, and like we don't have fat burners in. Like we're legit in cruise control.
Well, one thing I do want to add to this is like some of the listeners probably might be listening and they might be thinking like, oh, must be nice. Like you don't have to do any cardio. You can eat a ton of food. It was not always this way. Like when I turned pro, I was 50 grams of carbs a day, 90 minutes of cardio for like multiple preps, 50 MCGs of T3, T4. Obviously I was with a different coach at the time, but I feel like just being able to add on more tissue, reverse, start prep in a leaner spot, keep food higher, reverse, do the same process year after year after year. It's allowed me to like build my food up really, really high and keep cardio to a minimal, and my body is still just responsive all year long. So it didn't always used to be that way. I remember we were talking about Martin, and Martin's like, yeah, like I don't do any cardio, and like he doesn't have to do any cardio all year round, and he gets extremely peeled. And some people are just like that, but I wasn't always like that. I've had to push like really hard many times.
Yeah.
And that's
I was going to say, in my opinion, the thing about Martin and Bossa that's really cool is they have such a good idea of how his physique will come in when they need to drop the things that they drop. And I think that's why it's so substantial, is because like obviously people will say Martin doesn't look as lean as he should be, say 3 weeks out. And then that's where they make some of the craziest moves. He goes like literally just protein, veg, no carbohydrates, dropped test and GH 2 weeks out of Olympia. And then dude was the most, in my opinion, probably the most conditioned open 100%. On stage at that time.
And that's what I was going to say right now is, dude, it comes down to working with the coach who knows your body inside out. Like that's where when people find that right link coaching wise, it's not necessarily about working with the smartest coach or best coach in the world. It's about working with the coach who understands what you specifically need as an athlete, in terms of PED protocols, in terms of food, in terms of what you need. Some athletes need, a little bit more confidence from their coach. And those small key details and relationships with your coach make a huge difference.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally agree. Okay. I got to ask this. What were the doses coming out of Olympia?
I got you right here. I had it pulled up already. So just so everyone sees, like this is my PDF. Oh, fuck. I hope it focuses. There we go. This is my PDF I get from Prabh, okay? It's on WhatsApp, all right? So the Olympia was October 10th. 12th. Yep. October 12th. So you'll see right here. Hopefully it focuses. October 12th, okay? You got 900 mgs of Test E. 300 mgs of Primo, 600 mgs of Mast E, 10 IUs of Lantus, 3 IUs of Sero, 20. I'm reading it backwards. 20 mgs of Novadex Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then 0.5 mgs of Adex Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday.
Wow.
So all these fools that might think we're capping over here now. No, we don't do that.
I got to ask this again because I know we already just talked about this, but what do you feel like? I mean, obviously he's in a deficit, so regardless, even if you're using Lantus in the morning at 20 units, 20 IUs, and you're still consuming 65 grams of fat throughout the day, obviously you're still in a deficit. So this isn't really. I'm assuming that's a reason why there's really no issues here, regardless of what kind of meal composition you're consuming throughout the day. What's up?
Are you asking like in terms of him going hypo and then his blood glucose dropping too low? Because obviously if he's really a condition, why are we still using Lantus?
Well, that, and then also just, I think, I'm gonna be real, like, and people can correct me too in the comments if I'm probably wrong about everything. But in terms of like insulin shuttling everything, all your nutrients.
Yep.
Since he's in a deficit, it's no issue. I'm assuming that he's consuming regardless of when he consumes his fats throughout the day.
Yeah, and I'm personally, if you want the truth, I'm a low fat guy. My approach to prep is low fat. I don't do a lot of fats. I'll start adding in fats if we need to slow down digestion, or if carbohydrate value is getting so high where we need to just add in some extra calories. I'll start adding in fats. But on his prep, if we went through his prep, like during the Olympia, if I'll pull something up, we'll just do September. His fats are pretty low. They're in the 30s to 40s. So we're not using fats, going into Olympia. I'm a low fat guy. So, 261 protein is his Olympia diet, 370 carb and 40 fats.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So the main thing for me is to get him to partition carbohydrates well to boost training performance, to ensure that holds up. And then during, if we do a high day, I'll actually drop protein down, because our goal with that high day is, to either kickstart his metabolism or to refill glycogen stores. So I'll drop protein down, I'll give him a high carbohydrate value, and then I'll assess fats kind of based on how much I want that food to stick. Do I want him to burn through it? Do I want stuff to kind of hold over for the next couple of sessions?
Okay, gotcha. How do you feel on those, Andy? How do you feel on that amount of fats?
Oh, dig in, bro. Dig in.
Yeah.
I mean, I just feel like it's hard to kind of decipher like how I feel, just because when anyone is that low body fat, like approaching a show, it doesn't matter if you're eating like 1,000 grams of carbs a day and no cardio, or the complete polar opposite. Just being low body fat for that long, you're going to just feel tired, lethargic. You're going to feel, all the things, right? So, but I will say my body does, I feel like, efficiently use the carbs a lot better, because the fats are not slowing anything down. So carbs are just constantly coming in and going out, coming in and going out. So I feel like if my fats were a lot higher, those carbs would not nearly be as high.
Okay. How many meals a day, and what was your carb sources?
6 meals, and Prabh is very a wide variety. So obviously oats, cream of rice, jasmine rice, rice cakes, bagels, sourdough bread, fruit. That's usually it, to be honest.
Okay. And did you ever feel like a crash from your carbohydrates from any of those meals?
No, not really. No, I would say not necessarily a crash. Definitely most tired post-training though, because you have the kind of little insulin dump there, and then also post-training. So you're just pretty tired. And then the last...
I think that's normal.
Well, the last 2 meals, how Prabh sets it up, which is, I think, is genius on his part, and I've actually implemented it with some of my clients, is like he'll put majority of the carbs in that breakfast and then those pre and post training meals. And then the last 2 meals will just be nothing. It'll just be like 6 ounces of 99.1 turkey and some veggies, right? Like protein, veg. And so like at the end of the night, I'm hungry, and then I wake up very, very hungry. So
that's so tough for me, dude.
Yeah.
That's so tough for me. I got to have my bigger meals. I appreciate bigger meals towards the end of the day, because it's harder for me to sleep if my stomach isn't somewhat full.
Yep. And I see a lot of coaches, they'll add in like maybe some fats before bed, like say a ground beef meal before bed, to like.
Yeah. That's what Patrick does.
Low fats all the way, bro. So it's like a scoop of whey isolate right before bed. It's like, oh, that's brutal.
That's crazy.
It's tough, bro. It's tough.
That's sick though. Plus at least you're able to prep on such high calories. You guys don't remember what the calorie count was, do you? I know you have the macros there.
So the Olympia, he dug pretty hard, man. Like calories wise for the Olympia, for a guy who's 220 pounds.
And how tall are you again?
Needed
5'11".
You're not 6 foot.
I wish.
Calories he was pretty low going to
Did
Olympia.
not feel like that when I was standing next to you.
2100.
Maybe they're all lying to me. I'm not 5'7.5". What were you saying?
2100 going into Olympia.
2100 going.
Low days, followers.
Yeah, that's fucking low for how big you are, bro. Yeah, but what were the calories approximately at for the majority of prep before you guys kind of started really digging those last few weeks?
Well, he's
'Cause
very
you said,
similar
you said
to
it was
Martin.
okay.
We don't dig till the end. Like, I feel like we cruise up until like our biggest digging point is like 5 weeks out to 2 weeks out. Those 3 weeks are like, let's push. Like, let's get you ready at 2 weeks out. Like, there's like a 3-week push in there where it's like, let's get you hammered down. Let's get you as peeled as possible. And once he gets to a certain point, it's just weird. And as a coach, you just understand it when your athlete's going through it. You're like, all right, he needs 2 high days in a row. And normally it's happened every single time I prepped him. When I give him those 2 to 3 high days, he actually just stays the same way. And I'm like, all right, now we found that spot. Now we reinvented the whole metabolism. Now you're eating 340 carbs rather than the 220 you were on. And now you're just staying at that same weight the whole time.
Yeah. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of coaches will be pushing pretty hard around those last 5 to 2 weeks out or so.
Yep.
Except for Patrick, who just likes to push the entire fucking time.
Oh, wait.
Hey, man, I don't think there's any question of if I'll ever get peeled because of him, though. So it's a good thing. Fuck.
As a coach myself, man, like I have a huge like admiration for the work that Patrick does with his athletes. It's even when I talk to you at San Diego, it's a different look. It's a very distinct look. Like you could point it out on stage and be like, that's one of Patrick's guys, just by the hardness of the skin, the texture. I'm sure he does the manipulations with, potassium and sodium during peak week. Like I'm sure he has everything in play. So it's a very distinct look.
It's cool to hear. Yeah. He does have a very interesting look in his athletes for sure. But I do also know that he does definitely, it takes obviously it's just like any coach, man. You take some time to learn how your client is, and then you tailor a lot of your programming and what you guys are going to structure based off of how he reacts. And that's definitely what he's doing with me as well too. So I'm sure things are going to change this time around.
Every prep is different. I always tell every athlete, like we can't take previous data. Like, Andy peaked Andy peaked 6 times this last year. No peak was the same. Everything was completely different. Like there was no peak that I was like, this is going like this peak or this is going like that peak, because, you're in different environments. You're at different set points, body weight wise. Some weeks you go through shows completely. Because some shows were working a little bit heavier and bigger. So it's very different every peak. And you have to relearn a strategy. Sometimes you obviously have to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes you have to play catch up and be like, I got to change. This is the original point. This isn't happening.
Hold on. Is Andy taking a shit right now? I thought you brought us on a field trip.
That would be an Andy thing to do. That would be an Andy thing to do.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like that's a normal thing I do whenever I'm just on a FaceTime with homies. For some reason, it's always during the FaceTime. I just happen to bring them to the bathroom with me.
Yeah, that's like the homie code when you're on that 4-way FaceTime call with all your boys and you're like, did that fool just mute himself? Oh, he's for this. What would you say, Niall, was your favorite look this year? Like, what would you say your best look of the year?
That's fucking tough, man. Because I think we could have tweaked some things around for me to. I did not like my look the second show, but I think whenever I go to Florida, a lot of the times I've gone to Florida, I just haven't had the best look.
Of course.
And I can't tell you why that is, but I think part of the reason is a lot of the shows that I have done not in Florida are in driving distance of my home. Even if it's in Vegas, I drive 4 hours to Vegas and I'm there with my car and everything's a lot more
comfortable.
Whereas when I'm like flying to another place, I don't know, I've kind of been a little bit more stressed regarding that entire week when I'm trying to prep. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really sure what it is yet, but that's what I'm suspecting it is. But anyways, first look really awesome because I feel like I really personally think the conditioning wise, the first look may have been the best.
Okay.
And it was also my lightest weight, which makes sense. But the third look was the most full. And I think that's what the judges were looking for more so, especially because I'm on the smaller side.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and I placed a lot better at the third show than I did any of the other two shows. So that was the 6 weeks on Winstrol, but I really do think that I can cap it out at 4 weeks next time. I think the last 2 weeks wasn't really the best for, one, my oxidative stress.
Yep.
Two, my skin clearly fucking got acne that like even now it's crazy. I still have leftover like scars and shit from the chest acne because it took forever after that show was over for the chest to go away, which is kind of surprising to me because normally it goes away pretty quickly once I enter my health phase. And then digestive, my gut motility definitely slowed down in the 5th and 6th week while I was on it. And then it was pretty substantial how different the carb.
Yep. Things just slowing down, obviously not being able to like process through carbohydrates as well. Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. That's bodybuilding for me is so fun as a coach, you know, seeing so many different athletes with the different, you have to use different drug protocols, different amounts of times because everybody responds so differently. Even like people will talk about genetics. And most of the time when people are talking about genetics, they talk about shape and structure. They never talk about, you know, tolerance to drugs. They never talk about how your body responds to certain things. You know, which PED protocol works best for a specific individual because, you know, what might work best for you, like might be a test, you know, Masteron and Primo Cycle. And another guy might be like, bro, I swear by test and EQ. But there's so much individual variance and response to things. And that's where, like, from the coaching perspective, in my opinion, it gets so fun being able to do different things with different guys to see what works best for every individual.
Okay. Yeah.
Because genetically, I feel like for Andy, like the biggest gift he actually has is how fast he clears gear. Like how fast his blood work returns to perfect. That is like one of the most impressive things I've seen with a guy like him.
That's pretty dope. With peptides growing substantially in the last couple of months now, and honestly, we could list out a long list of all the peptides that have helped us. You guys have heard these peptides and these research chems in the podcast maybe a million times. Peptides I've used from APR such as BPC 157 and TP500 for soft tissue healing, Retatrutide and other GLPs, mitochondrial support such as SS31, MOTC, 5-amino-1Q, methylene blue, SLU. There's a bunch of others. Obviously, the list goes on and on. One of my favorite things, though, that I've been utilizing, such as during my last prep, that has allowed my blood work to come basically pristine, aside from slightly elevated liver enzymes at about 60 and 130 1 week after the show. And this is after a leg day because my dumbass doesn't want to skip a training day. These are probably the things that I think are the most important. So this includes like your injectable glutathione, injectable or even just normal NAC, liposoluble glutathione, GI aids such as oral BPC, oral TB, KPV. A lot of these things have probably been very substantial in reducing oxidative stress and keeping all my blood markers down, and thus keeping me as basically healthy as fucking possible that you can be while you're bodybuilding. So I couldn't be more thankful to Mike for literally showing me the ropes and also providing me with all of these things. Even the compounded supplements that he creates for blood pressure and reducing oxidative stress on all your organs, including your cardiovascular system, your liver and your kidneys. All of these that he creates have been very substantial, honestly. So you can find any of these at his site, aprhealthsolutions.com. And he has offered me a code Nile for you guys to use, which will offer you a 15% discount off of all of that as well, since he knows that the codes are a little bit just for the homies, you know. If you guys end up using those and you like him, please let me know. Shoot a comment, just give me a DM or something. And if you ever have any problems or any questions, I'll be here too. This is a community for me, even though I don't have a fucking Discord because I'm lazy as shit, but I fucking should make one. So love you guys. And, keep training hard. Yeah, no, honestly, man, I've cared about my hair my entire life. And like what did I get in high school? You know when you're like voted in high school for certain things?
Yep.
I got
Most likely you get a hair transplant.
get a hair transplant. Crazy, dude.
I need one. Man, I'm losing my hair.
What? It doesn't even look like it.
I'm losing my crown. I'm losing like right
crown.
here.
Bro, you have like the most perfect hairline I've ever seen.
I appreciate it. You know what's funny, man, is I honestly think I started losing hair because I was in Europe. So when I was competing, I would compete, and then when I would come off after the show, I would just completely come off cold turkey, and I wouldn't even do like an HCG, no phase or anything like that. Like I would just let my balls crash.
That's crazy. Why'd you do that?
I honestly, man, just laziness. I hate pinning. Like I was just wanting things that honestly, like I competed for like 4 or 5 years. And from there, honestly, like never took off seasons, which is my own fault. So my main thing was like, I would just completely come off cold turkey after shows. And then Andy could tell you, I would literally be like, you know what, I'm going to go prep again. And then I would just jump straight into a prep off of no gear and just add in drugs and just body would respond. And then I would just go through that constant cycle. And I feel like when I would come off completely, that's when my hair started to really, really go.
Damn, that is crazy. I honestly had the same experience, man. That's another reason why I just kind of wanted to come off first for a little bit, is I was just so fucking tired of pitting.
It's just such a...
Just having a little sub-Q ACG, like, 2 to 3 times a week, and then not having to worry about anything else is so fire.
Yeah.
See, that's where y'all gotta hit your girlfriend and be like, babe, shoulder, left rear delt. Here you go. Right butt cheek. There you go.
That's what I go to my boys for.
Yeah, for sure.
It's very intimate. Yeah, whatever. High school, I was like, I think I was voted for was best dressed. It was second most attractive, not first. This is bullshit. And then I got another one, which is kind of crazy. It was biggest flirt, which my mom was not very proud of.
Biggest flirt.
It's in the past. Yeah, bro. I want to ask Andy before I forget too. So you told me some of your doses too last time we were hanging out, which I think is super dope. That, I mean, one, obviously you're going to be honest about it, but two, I thought the cruise dose was kind of crazy. Being at like 300, right?
Yep, 300
mgs.
Yeah. If you're lying about that, that'd be kind of crazy. You ever cruise on like 500?
Cruising on a gram or what? Well, we call that athletes TRT.
Athletes TRT, right? What was the program coming out of the show? Because you guys went straight into basically this big blast rebound, right? And from what you told me, I think I remember you saying it was like a big step up from your last off-season cycle.
Yep. So like, what's the question?
Like, what was the full cycle? What was the numbers?
Oh,
and based off of what you did before, and then I guess what was the progress that you saw through utilizing that with the new, like the new calorie intake and the new diet that you had?
So right after Olympia, it was the cycle that I showed you was 900 test E, 600 mast E, 300 primo, as far as oils go, and then I believe the previous off season when we finished the rookie season, Prabh probably has it. Go ahead.
It was 600, 600, and 300. So it was 600 test, 600 mast, and 300 primo a week, and it was 10 IUs Lantus.
Okay, gotcha.
So about I would say, I mean, that's what about like 300 to 400 milligrams less per week.
Okay. Were you doing any GH during that time?
Yeah, 3 IUs of GH.
Just 3 IUs before bed?
Usually fasted.
Oh, fast in the morning instead.
To be honest, after watching too many of your damn podcasts, I've been like thinking like, maybe I should do it before bed. I don't know.
No, dude, same. What do you feel about? How do you feel about that problem? Like, what are you thinking about GH now?
So I honestly think GH is great, man. I think so. It depends on what kind of GH you have, though. So I'm a huge proponent of it has to be a high quality GH, because if you don't have a high quality GH and you start to see a lot of fluid retention, I personally don't like that, because I start to see the lines get blurred a lot. And then I don't know, are we really progressing? Are we just gaining a bunch of water and fluids? Now I can't really see any detail anymore. Like, are you losing that because you're getting too fat? Or are we losing that because you're, holding too much fluids? So I make sure it's a high quality. Like Andy's mainly ran Serostim, and I like 3 IUs, and we'll keep that in all the way through show day. And I like it in the AM fasted, but I also like it pre-bed. I think when you take it pre-bed, the nice thing about it is when you wake up, your glucose levels will be pretty good. Because obviously GH and insulin, in my opinion, are great to use together, because GH does blunt insulin sensitivity. So that's honestly another reason why I started to use insulin with him, was to counteract if we're using GH in the mornings.
Okay, I see. Do you really feel like your GH production at night is sufficient if you're taking GH in the morning fasted?
I think it is. Personally, myself, I think I feel like with GH, right, the main thing that I see the reason I like to use it fasted is from a fat loss component.
Yeah.
It will help with that. Because my main thing is when you're using it at PM, you are going to get, better sleep. You are going to get naturally higher production GH. But I feel like at night, you're already at a higher rate, just from what I've seen. Therefore, I'd rather put it into a place either pre-training or AM fasted, for myself, at least for athletes.
Okay. I wonder how much of a variance it is. I just wonder how much of a genetic variance it is, because I feel like across the board there will be some athletes that just I don't really believe that your natural GH production will come back that quickly. If you're taking it regularly every day, I just don't believe it'll come back. I don't know how long it'll take, but I know normally several days at least, I would think.
And that's the main thing, right? Is like when
the anecdotes.
Even if you have things like, GH, how many IUs are you running per day? Do you have enough to split into 2 areas throughout the day? Like it all comes down to, number one, affordability, right? For an athlete. Like, can you even afford to take GH at 5 IUs and 6 IUs? Because, when you are taking real stuff and high quality stuff, it's pretty expensive. And then my main thing is you want to put it in a place where it's most beneficial to the athlete. Like, for example, for Andy, if I'm going to use insulin with him, I prefer to use it in the AM, like I said, from the fat loss perspective. Even if it doesn't come back by the PM time, at least I'm reintroducing it back in the morning, just, exogenously, essentially,
I could see how that works very synergistically.
Yep. Especially like the main thing that I noticed with Andy's physique, man, it's crazy, is when he takes certain drugs, from his, like, for example, just say Andy takes growth hormone, right, in the morning, I can notice a difference in terms of, fullness, roundness going into training. Obviously PM, I'm not getting those same, visuals, because obviously sleeping through the night and then waking up. So I'm not seeing that same response. So it's a little bit more quantifiable for me.
Okay. How did you feel about how much you blew up after you started doing this rebound? What's your opinion on it right now?
Prabh will tell you, not big enough. I'm always worried, bro. Just like a week ago, I was like, hey, you know what? I think we should just take the year off, bro. Like, I think I need some work on my back. I need to get heavier. Like, I see the top guys, they're like in the 260s, 270s. I'm barely at 255. Like, just, I think for me, I never really think I improve until like you truly peel it down and you see for yourself, like, okay, wow, this is a really big difference. Like, you ever take a check-in picture now deep into prep and you're like, whoa, like, this is nice. Like, I've never seen, XYZ muscle look this way. So it's in the off season when you're a little bit softer, it's a little bit harder to quantify like how much progress have you truly made, right?
Yeah.
I actually have a funny story about Andy. So when we actually did our first show this year that he won, we actually got into a little debate. If you don't mind me telling him, Andy.
I don't even remember.
We were sitting on the couch and Andy wanted to use a diuretic. Like, he really, really wanted to use diuretic. And I was telling him, like, look, dude, like, I don't think we should use a diuretic. Like, you're peeled, like, you're hard as nails right now. If we use that, you're going to get too flat and, you're going to get a little stringy. Like, it's not going to be a good look for us at the end of the day. We're just going to look worse the flatter you get. And he was so hell-bent on using that diuretic for the first show. As a coach, I had to actually start giving him more sodium, more meals, and more fluid to counteract how much I thought it would essentially pull. Because I feel like for Andy, as an athlete, ever since I've known him, since he was younger as well, he gets in his head a lot in terms of comparison, looking at all these other guys, seeing what they're doing, seeing what their weight's at, comparing on why am I not at this level, or without realizing, like, dude, like, I'm not lying to you. You look crazy as well. Like, you've made a lot of progress. But I feel like for Andy, he only realizes that once he goes on stage and it's set in place for him. Like, once he dies for Pittsburgh and he's 227, I think he'll finally be like, okay, this offseason paid off. Like, right now, I feel like he's still not confident to know, like, will I even be at 227? Will I be at the weight cap? Am I just going to be too small? So he needs that reflection shown through the scale or when he gets to the show.
You got to finish the story though, P.
Yeah, so he wanted to use the diuretic for the first show. I started giving him more sodium, more fluids. And at one point, as a coach, I was like, do I just trick him and give him like an Adex and just tell him to go to bed? Because like I knew if I don't give him something that he wants at that point as a coach, mentally he's not going to go to sleep. It's going to be rolling around all night in bed being like, should have taken that diuretic, man. I needed to be drier and harder. And then by that time, an athlete might ruin their look by the morning going into the show. So I ended up giving him like the smallest amount. I gave him like an 8 or something so tiny. And obviously it worked out in our favor and he still looked great. And we just, whatever fluids he lost by the time he woke up, we just replenished it. Some sodium he had lost to the diuretic, we had replenished it. But yeah, like, and that's where like comes down to knowing your specific athlete and knowing what they're going to need. And sometimes, you got to make those calls as a coach to give them what they need just for them mentally to feel at peace.
Last time I saw you when you were in your Rebound, you were fucking excited about how much weight you were gaining.
It fluctuates, bro. It fluctuates, like, I don't know. I'll take like a good set of post-workout pictures. I'm like, oh, hell yeah, bro. I'm ready to start prep. Let's get this thing rolling. And then, I don't know, another day I'll get a glimpse of like my back or something or my quads. I'm like, no, maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe I'm not as good as I think, so.
But Prabh, you feel like you felt like he's probably pretty damn close to his weight cap now, right? If he goes on stage.
I think he'll be 228 to 229 peeled this year, which will be about a pound over his weight cap. Just based on where he's at right now. Like he's
okay, yeah.
What I told him the other day when he checked in was, with the drugs will do a lot for him now. Now that he's been off of gear and just been on 300 mgs a test, on TRT and got his blood work back. I think a huge change in Andy's physique, for example, now you said you like use Winnie for 4 weeks, and that's like your sweet spot. For Andy, I like to have orals in for about 8 weeks. And I noticed once those, get into his system and they peak, in onset time at that 8-week mark, I noticed that is when his best look occurs, at that 8-week mark. So I personally with him will add in orals 8 weeks out, get into the show, and there'll come a point in his prep where he'll just get, what the drugs keep kicking in, he'll just get harder, drier, leaner, while the weight kind of stays in a good spot for us. So I do think he'll be a pound above his weight cap this year.
What are those orals and what are the doses? And do you guys titrate up the doses at all, or is it about the same?
So we'll use I like to use Winstrol. I like to use Anavar from a performance standpoint. If we were pulling food a little bit lower, and pushing him a little bit harder to the finish line, I like to use that to maintain performance. 50 mgs Winnie, 50 mgs Anavar. And then about 2 weeks out, I'll add in, depending on the athlete and depending on the level the athlete's at as well. I use that like very importantly. If it's obviously a guy who's trying to make it to Olympia, we're pulling out all the stops, man. Like if we have to add in some halo testing at 2 weeks out, if we feel like it's needed to get a little bit drier and harder, we will. If we want to add in some Superdrol 2 weeks out, we'll use it. But I also like to keep in mind, very, very importantly, make sure he's not super toxic. And I'm not talking from like a mental point of view. I'm talking about internally, make sure, liver, everything is still in a good spot health-wise where he's not feeling shitty and he's not feeling like appetite loss from being so toxic internally. He like I said, genetically, Andy tolerates drugs very well. Like he clears drugs very fast as well. That's why his blood work post-show looks phenomenal. Even right after the Olympia, his blood work is perfect. So, that's another genetic component that favors him going into these shows.
Yeah. Now I was actually going to tell you because I hope it was you, but I think on one of your podcasts, you had said like after one of the shows, your ALT was like in the 300s or something like that.
No. So the only time it was in the 300s and 400s is that whole fucking spree where that's where I took gear for the first time.
Oh,
and it was
okay.
strictly just orals. And I basically ran it for like 1 to 2 years straight before I got my pro card. Not really straight, but like literally all I was running in terms of gear was orals. I didn't have any injectables in. So obviously, like when am I really taking much of a break aside from when I'm literally off of everything? It was such a stupid fucking experience. But because of that, the year later, when I didn't have anything running through my system, my test was crashed for like 6 months. I tried some HCG, but my test did not really improve. And during that time also, I wasn't really aware of things like enclomiphene. So I probably could have had some much better methods into getting my test back. But that's when my liver enzymes were 300s to 400s, and they wanted me to do a biopsy to double check if I had hemochromatosis. Everything was good. Liver was okay. Did not have hemochromatosis. I just ended up taking a bunch of injectable glutathione, which I recommend everyone get from Anazao. I'm not affiliated with Anazao or anything, but that's the pharmacy that has the glutathione. That's like, feels like water going in, honestly, compared to other glutathione. Like other glutathione sucks, dude. It stings so bad.
Oh yeah.
And then took a bunch of NAC and TUDCA throughout the entirety of that year. And my liver enzymes now are always around 50.
That's good.
So, I mean, it's obviously, if you consider a lifter and someone who takes gear and stuff, then
it's skewed a little bit.
Yeah, like any normal person, I would expect them to be below 40s.
100%. And that's where, like, even for Andy, we pulled, you know, he pulled his ISNC this go around on his blood work. He pulled his GGT on his blood work just to get a little more of an in-depth look on those things before starting a prep as important as New York and Pittsburgh. Obviously, you know, it's a little bit different for me as well with some of my athletes, man. We're really close and we're friends and we're like a family. You know, I want to make sure, you know, I know Andy at times wants to push, but dude, I'm not going to put your health on the line for the sport. Like, I'm just not, you know, mentally and physically as a human being, I can't do that. Especially I know his family. I know his girlfriend. I know his mom and his, you know, I know those people. So it's very difficult for me. I got to look out for his health first. And then from there, you know, I'm willing to push it as far as we can to get him to the level he wants to go to.
Yeah. So the reason that you did 300 through the cruise is because Andy normally just has pretty pristine blood work.
Exactly. Yep. So I realized from him, you know, like when I'm pulling bloods on his like I'm realizing for him, man, after we pulled bloods after the Olympia, like I'm talking about, like I've said this multiple times, that blood work post Olympia, 8 weeks on Superdrol, you know, Tren, Mast, Test, Primo, orals, like it looked almost like a guy hasn't even taken anything. And like, that's why we even pushed the cycle after the Olympia, because it was so shocking to me. I was like, dude, you clear gear so fast. And we realized that about Andy when he was working with previous coaches as well. He had came to me with his blood work. He's like, what do you think? And I'm like, dude, this is crazy to look at. Like, this is not normal for people. People normally have skewed levels, you know, after taking PEDs for an extended period of time. So that's where we realized that 300 mgs a test for him is fine, because, you know, his blood work comes back in a perfect spot. Therefore, you know, might as well use that little bit of extra past TRT. If we normally would go 250, it's like 300 is not going to hurt us if his bloods look perfect. If I realize they look bad, nah, man, drop that down to 200 if we need to.
Now, do you think you can only be one or the other, a hyper responder or a hyper tolerator? Because usually if you're one, then you're not the other. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Nah, I think there's some fucking freaks out there, bro. There's definitely some freaks that are both, for sure.
True.
I don't know what Joe's blood work looks like, but I have a feeling he's one of those.
Yeah, I mean, Joe. I've known Joe for a couple of years, bro, and he's the amount he's blown up since I've known him is just insane. You know. Yeah.
Plus, I mean, I know that like you're being pretty real about the doses, and they're higher than what I've experienced. But honestly, with seeing how much you've fucking blown up just in that short time, even not just from like the last couple of years, but also like seeing you in your rebound phase as you were doing this fine, your blood work was good, and you were coming out of Olympia. You ever consider going to open?
Whenever I get asked this question, I always have the same answer, and I think I would have to get way too big for my liking. Like, don't get me wrong. If I could walk around in 300 pounds, just chilling like the size of Quint or Andrew, I think that'd be sick, bro. That would be so cool. But I also think I'm like, okay, how's my breathing? How's my sleep? How's getting in and out of my car? How's just doing daily normal things? Because I know, like, once I hit 250, like, my sleep kind of starts to get diminished. Got to use the CPAP. Like, you know, even just talking right now, I'm like, I can't really breathe.
I definitely would coach to take him to open. I'll tell you that much.
Wait, say that?
I definitely would not be the coach who would take him to open. Like, I wouldn't want to work with him. If Andy told me tomorrow, I want to be an open bodybuilder. For me, being his friend, I wouldn't want to see him go through that to get there. I think genetically he can. I definitely do. I think Andy was always meant to be an open bodybuilder in terms of structurally, frame-wise, how much tissue he's able to carry. But I know when he gets to 255, 260, where that breathing goes to, the CPAP has to be attached, how uncomfortable he feels. And I think being uncomfortable as a bodybuilder is okay. I just wouldn't want to see those blood markers start going downhill because we're pushing the body to an uncomfortable state. Because Andy's like 267 before, which is pretty big.
Yeah, bro, that's huge.
I always think about Joe because Joe's 5'7", I believe, and he's 305. So if I'm 5'11",
that's crazy.
Or even someone like Nick.
It's like Nick Walker too. Yeah, dude. These guys are literally my height.
I just think I'm like, if I'm uncomfortable and I'm like almost 6 foot tall and I'm only pushing like 255, 260, how does Joe sleep at night? Like he must have to have I don't even know, bro, how he sleeps at night. And to my knowledge, Joe doesn't even use a CPAP.
What?
But that's also genetics, right? Like Joe's meant to be that big, man. Even when I've heard his podcast with you now, like he talks about his mom feeding him the peanut butter at night. Like, dude, like he was meant to be a big kid. Like that's structure. Like that's like Joe was meant to be a big human being, and now for him it's the normal. And I'm sure Joe at times at 290 doesn't even feel uncomfortable.
Jesus Christ!
I remember that story. He's like, yeah, in middle school, my mom wanted to bulk me up every night before bed. She's like, here, Joe, here's peanut butter.
That's wild.
Love you, Joe. Hope you're listening.
And Joe's one of the dude. Like it's crazy. Like looking at him because obviously I saw him at USA's when Andy turned pro. Dude, Joe is one of the hardest workers you'll see. He loves bodybuilding. Like he lives it. He breathes it. Like that is his bread and butter. And obviously next year I think he's gonna be very dangerous for people with the tissue he carries now.
Oh, bro, I can't fucking wait, especially with how shredded he was at Texas Pro. His back was insane, man. Conditioning of his back was wild with how big it is.
Yeah, and he has one of the best backs, in my opinion, in the open class. Like he is dense from head to toe. Like, from the waist, like the whole picture, when you look at it, he has a very complete physique.
Yeah. Makes me wonder, what if I was built for open? I was a big fat ass when I was younger. Could destroy Chinese buffets, dude.
Destroy Chinese buffet. You ever hit the Chinese buffet after a show?
Dude, if I told you what I ate, oh wait, maybe I did. Yeah, I already told you what I ate after the last 3 shows. Went to BJ's every single time, had everybody's Pizookie. I had like 3 to 4 Pizookies.
Had like the Pizookie trio and shit.
Yeah, and then we went to a buffet the next morning. It's fucking fantastic.
Yeah, breakfast is Mando after a show.
I told Andy no more of that.
Yeah, we can't, bro. No more Buckeye brownies, bro.
I went back on. Obviously, I take like a week to 2 weeks off of Retta or Tirzepatide, whatever I'm taking before the show. I jumped right back on that, like literally the night of show day. Still smashed that entire buffet. That's a problem.
It's so like even for like one thing I realized with Andy, and this is where like as a coach, like I'll try to always like recalculate every decision we made, like look at things from an outside perspective. Like I noticed going into show like 3 and 4 of the season, we would eat after show 1. And because the other show was a week away, we have to go back on cardio and stairs. And I feel like I didn't like we lost some fullness in the legs going into show 2 and 3 because we ate so much after the first show. Yeah, we got the weight off, but then the upper still looks full and round, but the legs start to dwindle now because the stairs do put a beating on your legs, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that too. It's dope. What was y'all's plan of attack for these 3 shows that you won 3 weeks in a row? Like, how do you do that? How do you win 3 pro shows 3 weeks in a row?
I'll let Prabh predominantly answer this, but from my standpoint, trying to keep stress levels as low as possible, especially with travel and flying and not a lot of downtime, because you're essentially doing 3 peak weeks in a row. And then you're also flying somewhere, flying home, flying somewhere again. And then also the adrenaline dump of a show and then another show and then another show. So there's a lot of like highs and lows. So just trying to like have fun the best I can and like not overthink, not stress, and just like remain as calm as I could possibly be. Because I think if I was like a ball of stress over that 3 weeks, I think the physique would have diminished at some point or another. So just trying to keep the people around me, like, keep everything calm, a very calm environment. Even with traveling, just try to just stay calm as much as I possibly can and not let that cortisol bump up under any circumstance.
Gotcha.
I think that's where for us it's beneficial to get ready early, right? To drop off a lot of internal stress on his body, even external stress on his legs, let them recover, let them come back to life. Like getting him ready at 2 weeks out allows us to do that. And then when you're going into these shows, man, show number one is easy. You're not doing any cardio, so you don't got to worry about that. All we're doing is getting some steps in. And we're starting our filling out process usually Tuesday or Wednesday. Of starting to get him ready for the show to, get him fuller, get him rounder.
That's pretty early, huh?
Yeah, especially with him, man. I noticed after day one of feeding, he usually won't gain any weight, and it's an incremental load. Like for him, like I have the data. I think it's like for the first show we did like 500 carbs on the Wednesday.
Even with insulin, he still didn't gain any weight from that.
Well, we'll only use Lantus for the insulin towards obviously into the peak week. But yeah, even with the insulin, you won't gain any weight. Because once the metabolism starts cranking, it starts cranking. Like his baseline carbs are 300 going into show number one. And for Wednesday, we load him with about 500. Thursday, we load him about 700. And then Friday's kind of playing it by ear. I think he ended up doing like 920 on the Friday. So he's putting in about 900, 700, about like 2,100 grams of carbs across 3 days. And obviously protein, I'm bringing it down slowly. I'm starting to manipulate fluids. I'm starting to manipulate his sodium going into the show. And then after show number one, give him a meal, let him eat, right? He gains 7 pounds. Bump his fluid back up. Let's go 0 carbs for the next day. If we have to go 0 carbs for the first day, normally within 2 days of putting him back on 8 liters of fluid and 0 carbs, all that weight's off. Pull the cardio back out, start the peaking process again. And then it's weird because that's what I was trying to explain earlier. Now you have a different physique to deal with. It might be the same weight, right? He might have been 219 going to both those peaks, but the body doesn't respond the same. And now as a coach, I have to start to manipulate things of looking at him every single meal. Okay, what do I need to change here? Do I need to feed him more? Do I need to feed him less? Do I need to give him more water going into this peak? Do I need to use less diuretic? And that's where like the decision-making process comes into play of like what he specifically needs in that moment. Because we did 3 peaks this year, obviously, and they were all different. The last peak was actually supposed to be the most feeding we did. And we actually had to pull him back because the last peak, his weight just started shooting up. Like during that last window of the last day, he was like, at one point I wanted him to go to sleep at like 228-ish and he was like 230. And I was like, oh yeah, this last meal, you're not having it, man. Like go to bed. Like we're done feeding. Like this is the perfect look. Like go to sleep.
Mm-hmm. And it worked out, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. And we wanted to do something in the sense of bring 3 different looks to the judges to see what they enjoyed the most. Like I feel like the first look was a middle ground of fullness and conditioning. The second look for Legion was just, his lightest look and he was just peeled. And then the third look, we actually brought him in at his biggest. And the feedback from the judges were they actually preferred look number 1, which was a combination of both. Or for the 3 wins. Yeah. So that was their favorite look. And that the judge at the first show was also at the third show. So you got to see him, twice, essentially under different lights and stuff.
Okay. That is cool to know. How did the judges at show 2, like how was the feedback at show 2 that let you know that the first look was definitely the best amongst the different panels?
Well, to be honest, the judges, I'm not sure what they said. I actually didn't even show up to show 2, which I didn't see him in person at show 2. I peeked him over the phone actually because I was at a national show. So I went to Andy's first show and then I had to go to a national show for the second show. And then I went to his third show. But Andy could tell you on what the judges said.
Honestly, now I didn't even wait for the judges' feedback, bro. I got the dub and I was just so excited, bro. You know how it is. You take the pictures with the fam. And if you do want to get feedback from the judges, it usually takes a while. Like you usually got to wait.
Right.
And I was like, bro, I'm good. Like, let's go to Cheesecake. Come on.
Wait, so how the fuck did you guys know that the first show was the best look then? What if it's the second?
Well, it potentially could be the second. Me and Prabh will go back and forth on that. He's like, do you like the Louisiana or do you like the Legion? I'm kind of like, I don't know, man. Like, it seems like the Louisiana was a little bit more sharp, a little bit more crispy.
Mm-hmm. My favorite for him actually was neither of the wins. My favorite look for him was actually the San Diego show.
Oh.
That was my favorite look for Andy the whole year.
Wait, say why.
Honestly, man, it was the perfect combination of fullness and conditioning. Like I remember like when we were taking pictures in certain lighting for that show, I was like, Dude, this is such a good look. Like he was big enough where I was like, and it was kind of vengeance for me, to be honest, man, because and I told Andy this. I actually I out of Andy's 6 shows this year, I thought 5 of them were really good, and one of them I still have a huge regret on. I was having a hard week in my life, but I'm not going to make any excuses. Andy was with me in person, and I kind of missed on one of his looks by giving him a little bit too much diuretic for the San Antonio show, which flattened out his legs a little bit. So it was kind of a miscalculation on my end. And that's why I enjoy San Diego so much, because I rectified that mistake and brought him in my opinion, where I needed to for San Diego.
Okay. Wow, that says a lot. And you got third at the San Diego show, so I guess that says a lot about the San Diego show, eh?
Yeah, they had different lineups too, for sure, you know.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't know. You saw that San Diego show, bro. That's could have went either way. A 1-point decision, apparently.
No,
so.
for sure. Yeah. 1 point decision between you and Mo. And Mo looked insane
and
too.
Anton, yeah.
And Anton made a lot of progress this year as well. I'm excited to see him.
Dude, crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Anton just blows up. Always does. Every time I see him in his off-season phase, I'm just like, why the fuck are you so veiny and
So lean?
every single time?
Craziest about him in
like,
the off season is he's so veiny, but his glutes are always peeled. Like he turns around and his glutes have striations no matter what.
like straight up, this is purely an assumption and purely just like through observation. But I just feel like he responds so well in his off-season to whatever he's running, and then I don't know how. Like you never know how balanced someone's like food consumption is with how much gear they're taking. But I mean, the fact that he stays so lean with his composition and he just looks like he looks like he's on prep when he's on his off season sometimes with that just like hard fucking full ass look. I don't know. It makes me wonder just how much should you be balancing out your food intake with how much gear you're running. And obviously this differs per person.
Yep.
I think, with some old school coaches, I've seen like food go up very, very high. Yep. And normally with that, you also see pretty softening of the physique quicker than I've been seeing in more recent coach and athlete relationships.
Yeah.
So, I mean, which is kind of an old school approach, right? They just say like, you have to eat a fuck ton of food. Just eat. But in my opinion now, looking at everything, I'm wondering just how optimal that is, because I'm seeing a lot of gains from people like Chris Tuttle, Dom Super Slice, and their following athletes put this importance on insulin sensitivity, regardless of how important it is. Jared Feather thinks it's talked about too much, thinks it's not as much of an issue as people think. But I mean, then again, there is some merit to trying to stay as lean and keeping the body fat as low as possible throughout your off season.
But my logic, honestly, man, is with guys who are really big, you want to stay a little bit leaner in the off season, right? Because in my opinion, when you get a little bit too soft, you don't get that same detail when you get peeled. Some guys don't. For example, like when we got Andy to 265, 266 in his first off season ever with me, his glutes were not dug out as they were this year. They were not, because we had a lot of body fat to pull down. But him starting his last prep at 243, everything came in evenly. And my thing is the biggest thing that suffers for athletes when they get too fat in an off season is their weaker body part doesn't get hard as fast as the rest of their body. And that's a huge issue when you're competing in the pro league, because if you are peeled from the front and then you turn around to the back and things are still a little bit mushy, the judges aren't going to like that. So the way I look at it is you want to keep body fat level even throughout your physique. Yes, you can put on a little bit of extra body fat as long as everything is very evenly placed body fat wise. But most of the time, if you push food too fast, your weakest body part is going to become your softest body part, is what I noticed with athletes.
Okay. Yeah.
Not only that, too, I feel like in the off season, from an off season standpoint, when you're just pushing the food just for the sake of pushing it or just for the sake of the scale moving up, like, oh, I'm going to push to 275 or 300 pounds. And it's like, we're not even looking at the physique at this point. We're just trying to get the scale to move. I mean, once your insulin sensitivity is destroyed in that way, it's like, how much food and nutrients are you really utilizing anyways? How much of that food is just sitting in your stomach? And then also, if you want to get really particular, if you're pushing 6,000 calories a day, however many multiple, cheat meals per week, like, how much is that stomach getting distended in your off season, and how much is that ultimately going to translate to your waist being a bit blown out, or something like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's super true. Oh man, I've been really wanting to experiment with the whole Joe McDonald's insulin diet though. Sounds gas.
But Joe is a freak, though.
Well, Joe is, man. Joe's a freak. The biggest gift Joe has is he could get a little bit softer in the off seasons. But when he gets peeled, it's always the same version of Joe peeled. Like he gets stripped, but that's not the same case for everybody.
Yeah.
Like I've seen some guys get too heavy in the off season and then they try to pull everything back. And it's like, dude, your glutes aren't coming in this prep. And if you want your glutes to come in, we're going to have to sacrifice other body parts to get them in.
Yeah. I mean, also, I might be wrong about this and people can comment if they feel differently. But also, if you're just a bigger person and you have substantially more muscle mass, like Joe and Nick, who have 100 pounds of more muscle mass than I do, then, due to homeostasis, you're going to have a different, I believe you're going to have a substantial difference in the amount of water weight that you're increasing subcutaneously to versus me, who's, I don't have that much muscle to fill out.
Yep. 100%.
And I also feel like obviously those guys are going to have to eat a lot more just for the body to be able to, you have to eat a certain amount of food to be able to support a body that size. Like Joe is,
right. Joe doesn't eat that much, does he? Like from what I know.
Right now in the off season, he's pushing like a lot of food. I remember he was on Bro Chat. And he's like 150 grams of fats a day or something like that, like very, very high. 2 Pop-Tarts, pre-training, post-training, 3 ground beef meals, 2 giant cream of rice meals, 3 scoops of whey isolate, 32 grams of nut butter. Like, he's, I think he said 400 grams of rice per meal. So...
Because the crazy thing is for some of these guys who are super big, right? The one thing I've noticed with some of these guys is it's crazy. They don't even need that much food to support it. Some guys are literally just genetically like meant to be that big. Of course, they have to push off season. The main thing is these guys have to get themselves into a surplus. Like if you're in a surplus, they're going to gain weight and they're going to gain tissue. But like, I don't know like how many athletes are having to push to 800-900 grams of carbs a day to even grow that tissue. Some guys could grow on much less food.
Well, speaking of Joe, when he did Texas, I remember in an interview afterwards, he said, Joe, if you're listening, sorry if I messed this up, but he said that he had carbed up only on like 250 grams of carbs for that show.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn.
That's the most he did.
Didn't he say on our podcast that he was consuming like 1,000 grams of carbs though whenever he was gaining the most weight in his off seasons?
In the off season, yeah.
Yeah. So,
but it's crazy because when he's peeled, I think in the 250s, he was peeled for Texas and he only needed 250 grams of carbs and he was, that full and that crispy and muscle was pushing up against the skin as well as it did.
Yeah. Fucking Justin Compton on my pod was telling me about how he believes their best look, Joe's best look is not, he gave me a percentage fullness. And
like 20%, right?
Yeah. It was something that I felt like was below,
what's crazy?
It might have been around 50 or below 50. Yeah, for sure.
It kind of makes sense though, right? Because even a guy like Nick, I look at his physique and I'm like, dude, you carry so much muscle tissue that do you really need the muscle to be that full to showcase how big you are? Or do you just want to be so dry and hard to accentuate your strengths? Because Nick and Joe are so heavily muscled. Do they need to go to 1,000 carbs to fill the muscle? At that point, are they losing areas that they don't want to lose? Is their waist getting a little bit bigger? Or are they adding, volume of food to certain areas that they don't want to? So that's my kind of logic. They don't need that much food.
I think no matter what, there's always going to be a balance somewhere in the middle. Like Boss of Outlaw states, is it's about the pressure that you have of the muscle pushing against the skin, right? And after a certain point, you're going to be gaining more water retention everywhere, which is just not going to help that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, damn. As far as the strategy for those 3 pro shows that you won, you went over like basically stress management and how you adjusted the peak each time. But what did you do regarding training during that like last 3 weeks, or maybe even like more? I don't know how I don't know how far before that last show that you adjusted training. And then I guess gear protocol wise as well, since you're doing back-to-back peak weeks, what did that look like with the orals and with the injectables, with the GH? Because I feel like that's kind of a complicated place where a lot of people are a little bit confused on what they should do.
Right.
So
As far, I was just going to explain the training aspect real quick, and then you want to take it from there. As far as like training, obviously those last couple of weeks, I'm always pulling back on the volume because recovery is going to be key at that point. You know, you're not building any tissue at 2 weeks out. You're just simply trying to retain what you've built. So obviously no intensifiers, no nothing like that. Maybe cut down my working sets by like 25%. And then as far as peak week training, you know, normally like that Monday, Tuesday, you're still going like 80, 85%. But then that Wednesday, Thursday, no sets really to failure, just getting some blood and nutrients into the muscle, getting in, getting out, 45 minutes to an hour. And kind of just kept it that way. Obviously, we're not training Friday, Saturday. The hardest part, I would say, is flying home that Sunday morning and then having to do that final leg day the same night as getting home. So it's like you're reintroducing fluids, you know, you just competed the day before, you just got off a 7-8 hour travel day, and now you got to go train legs. So
how valid and how like reasonable is that though? Because I mean, there's a lot of coaches that obviously don't want to do any hard training immediately after the show. So because of the susceptibility of energy.
I think we do need to get some fullness back in the legs though, you know, after posing them, depleting them down from a fluid point of view, from if we did use a diuretic. I do want to get some blood back in there, because if we don't train legs again, I don't want to go into show number 2 with no leg training. You know, I want to get some blood in there. And another thing I noticed actually with Andy is we're actually able to pump his legs backstage a little bit. I know a lot of guys won't do that because the lines are going to get blurred, but he doesn't lose as much detail when he pumps his legs. So we're able to get a little couple sets of, you know, some squats in, some small amount of volume. For the Olympia, I actually had him do very light volume, but we did a couple sets of leg extensions like 2 days out, just to get a little bit of inflammation in there, not too much where we blur anything, and to add a little bit of pop to the physique. And we noticed that actually works very well with him going into the shows.
Damn, that's cool. That's cool as hell.
Yeah.
I feel like I remember Patrick having a YouTube video with Nihat where they're actually doing a little bit of leg pump like a couple days out of the show, out of Olympia.
It makes sense because
maybe he has the same.
Even when you're carbing up, I mean, you're just flushing blood and nutrients into there. So, I mean, that ultimately helps as well.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people have to realize with training, you know, you can only acclimate as much volume to training as there is demand for food, right? Depending on how much food you still have remaining in your program, you don't want to still be doing drop sets. You don't want to be doing rest pause sets, cluster sets, or any of that stuff, because you don't even have the demand for recovery available. Obviously, you might have it from the PED standpoint, but you don't have it from a nutritional standpoint. So the main thing that we're looking at training wise going into these shows is drop down the volume, like Andy said. And then from a dietary perspective, I don't want to be doing any cardio from 2 weeks out if we don't have to. Of course, if you have to do it and we still have fat to lose, of course, we're going to have to keep doing that. And obviously this prep might be different if he's above the weight cap. So at that point, we still got to keep pushing down into the weight cap. Mm-hmm. But from that point of view, training wise, that's the only thing that really shifts. Diet wise, for me, going into these shows for him, it's to reestablish a new baseline. Once we reestablish a new baseline for him, just say, for example, I realize he's 220 pounds, he's peeled, he looks really good. I need to find the carbohydrate amount just to keep him at 220 all the way until I want to peak him. I don't want to see any peaks and valleys up and down. And we do that through, you know, consistent sodium application. So his sodium is monitored throughout the day at a consistent rate. His fluids are always the same, you know, whether it's 8 liters per day or 6 liters per day, we're keeping that a constant. So I know the only variance that's changing is either stress, you know, training caused some inflammation, and that's why his weight's moving up and down. It's not based on other variables.
What about water the last day or two?
So what for him, he actually needs a little bit more fluid, or he gets a little bit too flat, in my opinion. Okay. So usually it's like 6 liters all the way going into the show. On Thursday, I'll start manipulating fluids and I'll pull it down to about 4 liters. And then Friday, it's usually I'm playing it by ear. It's either going to be 4 liters or 3.5, just depending on what I'm seeing meal by meal. With him, it's actually a little bit more tricky because I actually posted a picture on Instagram. It was like during the 3rd peak. When you look at him when he wakes up in the morning fasted with like versus 5 meals in, dude, it looks like with 8 pounds added, things haven't really changed much conditioning wise, which in my opinion, I don't see that with a lot of athletes, but it's also really risky as a coach to see that with your own eyeballs and look at it and be like, well, he looks good at 228. Should I just put him on stage at 228? You know, because that is obviously a risky move to like go in and then you put him under those lights and it's like, damn, that did blur. And I didn't notice that small detail or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. Makes sense. Okay. What about the gear protocol for those 3 weeks?
So we'll always keep GH in all the way up until the show. We've done that, you know, throughout every show this year.
Right. With Sarastin.
I'll pull it sometimes I'll pull it on Monday. Like just say he's competing on Saturday, I'll pull it on Monday and then I'll reintroduce it right after the show. If he's like Saturday, he gets off stage, boom, let's put test, primo, mass, trend back in. And then, you know, we get a couple shots and then by Monday we pull it back out. With him, we at times, correct me if I'm wrong, Eddie, have kept mass in until about Wednesday.
Usually Thursday.
So we'll keep it in about Thursday. That's a drug I'll keep in with him because I don't want to lose too much total milligram. You know what I mean? If I'm losing already the test that we're keeping pretty high throughout the week, I need to at times replace that with something. So sometimes, you know, you can replace that with a Proviron. You could add that in as an oral just to, if test is coming out, you could add that in. But I'll try to make a milligram dosage somewhere if I can, but it's not necessarily dependent. But by Monday, test, trend, and primo are usually pulled out.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, Patrick does a similar thing with me. Keeps the mass until Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah. On the orals, we're running them all the way through all 3 shows.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
What about is that the Superdrol too?
Superdrol as well. Yep, Superdrol I'll start peaking that about 2 weeks out and start adding that in at like 10 milligrams. And then I'll make usually a decision. Do I want to use Superdrol and Halotestin at the same time? Both of them are very liver toxic. So you got to be really careful with how much dosage you use on that. So if I want to use both, I'll do like 10 milligrams of each. But if I only want to use Superdrol, I'll just put that at 20 milligrams and keep that, you know, AM and then pre-training.
Okay. How do you feel on that shit, dude?
Shit, I feel good. I was actually just wondering in my head, do you guys think there's actually a quantifiable difference? Because if you're already peeled, if you're already on obviously all the other hardeners, you know, Tren, Winnie, you're on Mast. So if you're on Winnie, Anavar, and then you add in 10 mgs of Superdrol, do you think it makes a difference adding in 10 mgs of Halo? Or at that point, are you already just hard as nails anyways? It doesn't really make a difference either way if it's 10 and 10 or just 20 of the one.
Depends on the athlete, right? On what that athlete's like main strong suits are. With the guy who has thicker skin, you might want to just only add in Halotestin. With the guy who's a little bit drier and harder all the time, you might only want to add in Superdrol. So I think it's just person dependent.
I think on top of that, it also depends on that person's total cycle and how they respond to that cycle. So if someone's on something that just seems, man, I'm trying to figure out the best ways to say this, the best words, because I always use the wrong words, honestly, when I'm describing this. So if you're looking at somebody that their cycle just seems to not be saturating them as much as they seem like they could be, maybe they could be running a little bit more to increase their level of fullness, then it's going to make more of a substantial difference versus someone who's already running like, I don't know, the fucking pharmacy. And then you add that shit in. And sometimes it almost like hurts that person in a way, or it just doesn't make a change. Yep. Yeah, because they're already pretty saturated. And I think one of the good examples for that is when I got my pro card, Halotestin made a big difference in my physique, like a very substantial difference. Because I think, man, it was so long ago when I was competing for my pro card because I was doing an immense physique. And what I do remember though is that the shows that I believe we didn't have Halotestin versus the shows that we did, the fullness was just like a substantial difference for me. But at the time too, I had not run any injectables whatsoever during the entire prep, at any point actually ever. So maybe if you could say that you're like someone like Martin who pulls out your injectables like 2 weeks in advance, and all of that you have been holding in your physique has dissipated in that amount of time, maybe adding an oral is going to make more of a substantial difference and to your benefit. Yep. But I don't know. It really depends, right? Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. Dude, Andy's a good co-host. He asks all the good questions. You ask better questions than I do. You should just honestly just own this podcast.
that's what's cool about I feel like that's what's cool about bodybuilding is like, you know, as a coach, you don't even know how it's going to change. You have to just assess that.
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
the best part about bodybuilding for sure.
Taking it, like you're looking at these guys change by the day, and you're like asking questions from these guys, like, you know, because that's why as a coach, I like to do this as a team with my athletes, because I don't feel what they're feeling. You know, I don't know how Andy feels in the gym. I don't know how his muscle feels. Like, I got to ask those questions to get a good gauge on, you know, how was your pump? Did it feel better than the day before we added Superdrol? Does it feel better now? But I think there is a point where gear is too much. Like, there is a point where, you know, you could be using too much and it actually starts putting a downturn to your physique. Like, if you're using more than you should be and your body can no longer tolerate it and you have your inflammation is high, like I've seen physique start getting softer and start regressing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like I've seen that as well too. Plus, I think I feel like I've experienced that myself, honestly, where I've like run too much and I'm like, at this point, I just feel like, I don't know, I feel like it's almost harder for me to get lines in places.
100%.
So there was one more thing I wanted to ask before I forget. In terms of oxidative stress and keeping blood work in check, I know Andy has good genetics for this, but Prabh, because I know you have a lot of other athletes and probably a lot of other pros, what do you have your athletes do, and what would you have yourself do when it comes to like oxidative stress, making sure that your blood work is always in check, especially if someone doesn't have good genetics?
So the number one thing when you first put somebody on a cycle is identifying, you know, what their blood work look like after that, to start to see like what are their, because some guys naturally have worse cholesterol, worse liver enzymes, worse, you know, their kidneys are in a poor spot, or, you know, whatever may be in a poor spot. So first identifying those things and then adding in supplementation, stuff like glutathione and stuff like that to aid in the process of healing and ensuring that these guys stay as healthy as possible, because nobody's supplement stack's going to look the same. You know, everybody's body deteriorates from a different spot when they take prep drugs. For example, like Andy might take prep drugs and his liver might go to the shits early. You might take prep drugs and, you know, your cholesterol just completely tanked. I might take it and my kidneys might be messed up. So it's so different person to person based. I think for me, the main thing is I require everybody to get blood work on my team every 3 to 4 months to ensure that we're looking at these things to see what is deteriorating, why is it deteriorating, and then adding in supplementation based on that, mega dosing certain things based on what gets worse first, and then adding in enough aid to still make sure the other things stay in a good place.
Okay, cool. Do you guys use any additional peptides or supplements or research chems?
He used Retatrutide in the Olympia post-show Rebound. Reta was something he wanted to try. I'm not a huge fan of it just because of, you know, it does slow down digestion, hurts gastric emptying a little bit and stuff like that. But he wanted to use it for the insulin sensitivity point of view. He wanted to use it from the appetite suppression point of view, which I was totally okay with.
Ah, you fucking puss.
and he's honestly a big
I'm
foodie.
blasting Reta for like months.
He's a big foodie, and I think Andy gets in his head though. You know, he's like, dude, if I eat this free meal, like, am I gonna ruin my rebound? And I'm like, dude, we've done 3 perfect rebounds at this point. You're not gonna ruin it. You're gonna be fine. But that's the main one me and him used. He uses BPC and TB as well. I'm pretty sure
The BBC.
glutathione as well.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Do you I don't know. I honestly like tirzepatide a little bit better personally. I don't know if you've experimented with those.
Never actually used it.
I feel like tirzepatide, I have a little bit of slightly higher appetite suppression, but not in exchange for slower gastric emptying, which I like because I just don't like this. I can feel a slight difference from Reta in terms of gastric emptying, but not as much as an oral. And then definitely feel a slight higher increase in my heart rate with Reta than I do tirzepatide, which I know is actually a little bit more common across the board with most people that use both.
Hey, now, have you seen some people? I think you've had some people on. They said in a prep setting, they're not using Clen anymore, and they're just exchanging it for Reta instead, even though they don't really do the same thing. I heard on, I think, one of your podcasts, or like John Jewett's podcast, that instead of using instead of using Clen, they're just like bumping up the Reta, and they're adding in they're adding in like Slew as well.
I gotta be honest. I've heard I've heard some people state that they think it could be a good idea to just not have to use Clen. And if they have something else, maybe they'll like implement something like Slew instead. I don't think I've ever heard of anyone using Bretta instead of Clen. Just the mechanisms are so totally different.
Yeah,
but
right. That's what I was thinking.
Also, John Jewett specifically, I don't think he's a fan of Retta. Anyways. I mean, if he has to utilize it with someone and there is some benefit, then yeah. But like even for himself, he felt like his heart rate increased too much and affected his sleep for him to even want to use Retta himself.
And even for Retta, late in the prep, I want my guys a little bit hungry. I want to get that feedback on how they're feeling appetite wise. I want to get that feedback on, are they ready to, implement a high day and actually utilize this food and give me some good feedback, because if their appetite is crashed, I don't even know how much food can I feed them going into a peak week to make sure they fully fill out. So especially with a lot of these drugs, I feel like it's time and place. I honestly am not, like, I'm the type of person, I'm open to using anything as a coach. I really am. Other than the only thing I won't use obviously is DMP, which I've never understood why people use it, but that's just personally my take on it.
You like mint?
What's that?
You like mint?
I mint. I actually have a buddy who used mint. I'm not a huge fan. I haven't used it with any of my athletes. But peptide wise, I'll use them. I think they all have a time and place if used correctly. I think the only problem with the industry becomes when something new comes out, everybody latches onto it and then they want to take all of it. It's not like let's start with one and see what it does. It's like I want to be Retta, I want to use SOU. I don't do that. Funny. So that's my thing. I'm willing to use everything with an athlete, especially if that athlete specifically needs that. Like I'm not anti-Retta, I'm not anti-MOTC, I'm not anti-SOU, I'm not anti-anything. It's more so as long as we implement it when the athlete needs it for themselves.
Yeah, for sure.
I like
Myra Beagern's kind of nice too.
Huh?
Myra Beagern's kind of nice too.
I've never even used it.
No, it's people like to call it a side effect free Clen. But it's essentially it works through the same mechanisms, but it doesn't. You don't feel that increase in your heart rate.
I did like Retta also for the visceral fat that it supposedly burns. So it's like
supposedly, right? Even according to the research, like the amount of weight that people lost is so fucking small in a difference compared to like something like tirzepatide.
Yeah.
So I don't know how
most people are using Retta for the simple fact of the appetite suppression is a huge one, the insulin sensitivity, and then it does improve labs as well. So that's why we're mainly using it. Nobody's really using it for the benefit, the other benefits, which is 5, 6, or 7 things that it does.
From the anecdotes of all these podcasts, and obviously there's outliers, but like on average too, it just seems like with how low our calories go respective to how high our normal maintenance is, it just seems like having your appetite like where it's completely suppressed at a level where you don't have any hunger those last few weeks is just way too much Retta, especially for your gut motility. Dom feels like the 5 people that he knows that went on the Olympia stage that used Retta all didn't come in at their best and all had some sort of
digestion issue. Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know.
It makes the peaking process a lot harder, but also from a feedback standpoint, if like Prabh said, if his athlete's 2 weeks out and it's the end of the day and he's like, hey bro, I'm not even hungry. How does Prabh know that metabolism is ramped up, enough to, okay, he needs a high day. He needs to, be fed up a little bit, or it makes it a lot harder because the feedback isn't necessarily accurate because it's a little bit skewed because of the appetite suppression.
I see. That makes sense. I mean, there's other variables you can look at still though, right? But it's
scale,
just a little bit more
weight,
difficult
the
that
look,
way.
for sure. Yeah.
And there's a lot about feedback you can take outside of just, how the person feels. Like we, as coaches, we have so many tools in our check-in sheet, from weight to how they feel, performance in the gym, appetite, digestion. Like there's so many things that you ask a prep athlete where you could eventually get to the bottom of it. But, I don't want to peak somebody on Retta where their gastric empty is slow down. Then like, their motility is just slow at that point, because I wouldn't probably be able to feed a guy like Andy 1,000. It might not be the same look.
Right.
I know a couple people who did the Olympia who ran Retta all the way through, and they said it did hurt their look in the grand scheme of things, or at least they think it did. Because I feel like obviously you can't you can't just blame it on one thing because there's so many variables and factors. Number one thing is you're at the freaking Olympia, stress and might be high. So there's just so many factors there.
I think
Also,
I feel like if people did what I did, where you like remove Reta or tirzepatide at least 1.5 weeks out, maybe even 2 weeks before your show, then you're going to be, you'll probably be fine though. I personally didn't feel like I had any issues.
I was literally going to ask that question. I was like, if you are on Reta, like how close to the show do you remove it in order to get that appetite back to where it would have normally been? How long does that normally take?
I would say 2 weeks is enough.
2 weeks?
Yeah. Especially if your half-life is around a week. I think 2 weeks is totally enough.
That's why I noticed. Well, my girlfriend was actually taking Reta and she was starting to have some issues and we pulled her off. And within that period, she within a week and a half, she started to feel like, okay, my appetite's coming back. Things are starting to improve. I'm starting to feel a little bit better.
I think psychologically, you're just going to have to be aware of the fact that like those days where you're really depleting, say like before you carb up. For me, for example, Patrick and I only carb up for 2 days, which is Thursday and Friday. So for all of those days beforehand, I'm like fucking on like less than 100 grams of carbs and just fucking starving to death. So psychologically, you're just going to feel a difference in your appetite. You're going to have to grunt through it. But I mean, aside from that,
but you're a pretty
I think it
low
works out.
Now, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I thought is really cool about us all talking about the food intake and the gear intake that we have on these podcasts and how big you guys are. Like you, Andy, I'd say like, so you're running close to 250 in your off season. You're like in between me and Joe. And I'm looking at the variance in just how much food and how much gear that we all need. And mine is just substantially lower than all of you guys. And like the amount of food that I consume and that I need in the off season, like I max out at like 500 grams of carbs. And when I carb up, Patrick and I are like 400 to 500 grams of carbs for just 2 days versus
so my question,
you who like needs 4 days of carbing up and you go up to like near 1,000, right? On the last day or the second to last day.
Yeah. So my question to you then, because now do you feel like you could see a benefit from using more PEDs? Like, do you think it would be beneficial to your bodybuilding journey? Obviously you said, you're Andy's kind of in the middle, then you have Joe, and then you have yourself who's using the lowest doses. Do you think it'll make a pretty substantial difference based on how you in the past?
I feel like as you and I just discussed, and like a lot of coaches and I had discussed before this too, like every single off season, every single prep is going to be different, right? Because you're gaining muscle mass. And so you end up having different cycles or slightly different dosages, potentially. So for me, it's going to be hard for me to know for this next upcoming season. But in terms of the last 2 years, I think the cycle that I ran with Kyle was a little bit too high. And then I think the cycle I ran with Patrick for the first show was a little too low. I think when we added the Winstrol, we got probably, I would say maybe it was the perfect look, honestly. And I mean, the judges seemed to really like the look in the third show, the one in Vegas. But yeah, it's kind of interesting for me to see. Like I remember when I was doing it with Kyle, even like 6 weeks out, I was like, man, I am fucking like my legs. I can't even see my definition because the veins are covering it. Like, holy shit. And then for Patrick, it was like the opposite. I'm like, throughout the entire prep, I felt like I looked a little bit natty for most of the time. Yeah, flat. Yeah. There's like no vascularity going on. But I mean,
even from a coach point of view, though, right? Like, I feel like that's different styles of coaching. I don't know how Kyle coaches, but from what I've heard from Patrick, like Patrick likes to push his guys. Like he's old school and he wants to get you peeled. Like, so you feel like the flatness might come from that as well? Just pushing a little bit harder rather than.
So the diet was not too different. Patrick's diet was a little bit harder, and Patrick dieted. I think we dropped the calories just a little bit earlier than Kyle did, but. Yeah, I think that's definitely one small factor, but in my opinion, it wasn't as substantial in regards to my fullness. Like I can tell when my fullness is from carbs versus when my fullness is from gear. You know what I mean? And a lot of the difference, like if you're just so fucking vascular, but you're not as full as you would be if you're comparing to like a certain amount of carbs you consume on a normal daily basis. When you're carbing up, it's kind of just. You guys know what I'm talking about. You know the look. No, you're just like you're just smashing tons of Anadrol and Superdrol and shit. And you're just fucking in the gym with these nasty pumps. You know,
it's a good feeling.
Yeah, it's cool shit though. I wanted to ask, this is a little bit different. I want to ask about intensifiers training too, but we're kind of running out of time, to be honest. But I wanted to ask you guys personally, because as everyone knows, when you're just moving through life, there's so much that is out of our control. And that's just kind of a common fact of being in life. So including the things that you've experienced throughout what's going on in your life and your relationships, what would you guys feel like has been one of the most difficult points that you've had to overcome? Whether it was associated with anxiety or depression, of just whatever kind of situation was going on through your competitive careers.
So for coaching, I'll touch on, just because I kind of talked about it earlier. It was a close loved one passing away during Andy leaving for his San Antonio show. I feel like that was probably the hardest downturn for me that I had to go through, for having to still peak 2 high-level athletes at that given show. And then obviously as a coach, you can't really tell your athletes what you're really going through, because obviously there's still a job to do, and like the goal is to effectively still do the job, but it definitely obviously takes a toll from that perspective.
Yeah, I would probably say I felt this way after the first time I did USAs and I lost. I was like really on this high. I had just won like my first overall. I'm like, yep, going to nationals, going to get this pro card. And then I missed out on the top 5. And I remember being like so crushed. Like, your whole family's there, all your friends are there. Everyone on social media is like, you're going to win type stuff. And I remember being extremely crushed. And I kind of felt the same way, similar with a little bit more hindsight, I guess, in a way, after the Olympia. It's like you win these shows, you're like riding this high the whole year, your confidence is through the roof. You feel like you can stand next to anyone, and, any show you do, you're going to be in the mix. And then you do the Olympia and it's like, okay, the first call out, all right, cool. These are the best guys in the world. Then the second call out, then the third call out, then the fourth call out, and you're still kind of just sitting there waiting. It really is like a reality check, but I look at it as like in a good way. Like some people that might break them, and they might feel like, yeah, I'm not as good as I thought. Like this is not good. Like maybe this isn't for me. And I do have those thoughts occasionally, but I try to like actually use that as fuel. So it's like, okay, I want to make sure I never feel that way again. So I don't want to be in the 5th or 4th call out again. I want to make sure I don't feel that way. So I'm going to work and check all the boxes and do everything I need to do to not feel that way again. So I would say probably just placing bad after winning, going from such a high to a low, and trying your hardest to not stay in that low for too long. Because some people, they hit that rock bottom, they hit that low, and like it seems like they can never come out of it.
Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the most difficult things in when you're just dealing with life in general too, though, right? It's like sometimes life will just hit you with this left hook, and whether or not you were high or not, suddenly it's gone. So I think it just it's I think one of the most important things as a man is being reminiscent and being able to sustain the same mindset of like, I'm here to just put in the work regardless of what the outcome is. And this is the kind of person I want to be. Like placing yourself in the position of like, this is ideally the person that I want to be and I want to become and I want to strive towards. So this is how I'm going to act. And that's just like being process oriented versus outcome oriented, which I think is super difficult because, maybe we're not women, but we still fucking feel emotions, So shit still gets fucking tough sometimes.
And I feel like we have to mask them more, right? At times, that's how we feel, at least. Like we have to, put on a tough face and a brave face. And one of the main things I try to tell even Andy after the Olympia or any of my athletes is, I used to watch a lot of Kobe Bryant growing up. I was a huge basketball fan. Stay even keel. You're going to have highs, then you're going to have lows. It's just about how can you ride that midline the whole time. Like how can you stay kind of in that middle ground, not get too high, not get too low. Therefore, you always know you're staying in a positive place. Like I feel like some guys will let things crush them so much that they can never recover. And then some guys will get so high after either a win or whatever the case may be that they're going to ride that and then they fall off, because it's like once they hit that rock bottom point, they didn't expect that to ever come.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are also, I feel like the same guys that are like, oh, I got overlooked at my show, or oh, it was politics, or instead of just accepting the fact that like maybe they're not as good as they think, just being a little bit more humble and, getting back to the drawing board and actually, like Prabh said, riding that midline. So, okay, you might have lost, but don't stay in that hole. And even if you win a show or you win 2 shows or you qualify for the Olympia, enjoy the moment, but don't stay too high because ultimately you're going to have to come down at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But let's jump to this Q&A real quick. Let me put this battery in there.
Little Q&A.
Little Q&A. I think that's the coolest thing too, man, about like helping these athletes, because dude, every athlete is dealing with such different mental things at all times. It's like you have to, as a bodybuilding coach, you have to manage emotions as much as you have to manage physiques. You have to manage like feelings. These guys, their external life factors. Like there's so much more that comes into it than just being like, here you go, Andy. Here's your drug protocol. Here's your diet. Go do your cardio. Go crush it. You're gonna be fine. Like everybody needs some different type of guidance.
Yeah, facts.
Speaking of losses, I made friends with Little John because he goes to the Young LA gym a lot. He's such a really good person, actually.
Yeah.
Through his trainer, who's a good homie. But literally a post just popped up saying, "I'm extremely heartbroken for the tragic loss of our son, Nathan Smith. His mother and I are devastated. Nathan was the kindest human being you would ever meet. He was immensely caring, thoughtful, polite, passionate, and warm-hearted. He loved his family and the friends in his life to the fullest." Which is kind of just fucking nuts, man, losing your son. And I don't know, it just made me think about that place that you were at. You were mentioning earlier, Prabh.
It was actually, I won't say that person because I don't know if they want me to, but like somebody very close to me actually lost their son. And it was, this person was an infant. So it was definitely like, Andy saw me go through that low, and that low was probably like one of the hardest times of my life, man. Especially with a kid, man, you never want to see it happen. Somebody who's so young and have their life taken that young it's just unfortunate.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Now, are you doing all right there, bruh? You doing okay?
We're going through a lot of shit recently, dude. I don't know. I think it's just something that I feel like is valuable to talk about. I don't know if there's anything that you have felt from that loss or that you feel like was a learning experience for you in terms of your mindset on life
for sure, man.
Or how to just progress forward. But
I think for sure, man, I think you learn a lot, right? You learn a lot about yourself as a human. You learn that certain things don't matter as much that you think they did. Materialistic objects, relationships matter more. Spending quality time with loved ones matter more. All those things are huge. Like, I feel like it changes you as a human when you go through that type of loss. Internally, from a family point of view, with your friends, everything in your life shifts. It feels like the main thing I've taken from it is understanding that you have no control over the situation, and it's just a super unfortunate situation. And just trying to move past it. And at times also realizing dude, it's okay to be sad about it. It's okay to cry about it. It's okay to not feel okay. Those are all valid emotions, but also realizing you have to keep showing up for your people, even on the days you don't want to, because there is a lot to live for, and just being blessed that, we're still around to do what we love. And essentially even, you doing this podcast, me being able to coach and you being able to compete as a bodybuilder, and Andy being able to do the same, those are blessings, and those can be taken at any given moment. And also my main thing, man, is just giving people more grace, giving people more grace, just moving forward.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I had someone, there was someone close that was, that passed away recently, and someone I was close to, she was going through a lot, and I think the mindset was a little bit surprising when I heard it, but it's not at all rare. In fact, a lot of people experience this. So I guess what would you have to say to someone who, when they lose someone, they feel like they end up being in a place where they feel and they say, I spent so much time with this person and I texted them every day and I still lost them. So what the hell is the point? People always say, value your relationships before you lose them. So what's the point?
I think that's where it's so difficult, right? Is because we as humans don't have any control over those situations. And it's like when you lose control over a situation, we can't even, nothing like, this is how I described it. When Andy was talking to me, when this happened to me and I was at his show, he told me like, how do you feel right now? And you feel a lot of emotions at that point. You feel anger, you feel the why me? Why did this happen to somebody, in my life? And my biggest thing is just looking at it from a perspective of like trying to be as positive as possible about the situation and taking the good from it. Like obviously there's nothing good about the situation, right? Like in terms of it's a shitty situation, but remembering that person for their positive, qualities that they brought to your life, remembering them for all the positive memories you made with them. Like, because we could all go through the rabbit hole of making it such a negative thing, but that's only going to weigh on us mentally, emotionally, and make you feel worse. Like actually cherishing the good times that were, like you said, you message this person all the time, like remembering them for that good or what they accomplished in life or what they did for people or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the only thing that I have to say that's on my mind, because there's nothing that can really help in that situation. It's always going to be tough no matter what. But in the end, it's always hard for all of us to not have expectations, no matter what it is. Like it's almost like a muscle that you have to exercise to release all expectations. If you have a friend and you build a friendship, if you have a relationship and you build a beautiful marriage with this person, if you even end up having a son or a daughter that you love very much, there's going to be this default expectation in your mind that like, you're probably going to have this person next week.
Yep.
And I think that's the toughest thing is like, how can you like align yourself with the Buddhist philosophy of expectations or suffering and release yourself from all expectations and attachments and just be connected at the same time. And I think that's one of the most difficult things that we can do mentally. So in my mind, I always just tell myself like, there's a reason that these people are in my life, and there's always something that I've learned and that I've gained and then progressed, and there's always something they've done for me. So in the end, I just continuously appreciate their existence, regardless of whether they're gone or if they're still around, and just try not to think too much about the future and just try to live in the present. And I think that's the hardest thing, man. I think presence is probably one of the hardest things for our generation in general.
Especially as humans, right? We're always looking forward to what's next, what's the next accomplishment, what's the next goal, and just appreciating life for what it truly is. Like appreciating, taking everything with gratitude. Just even being thankful for another day and waking up tomorrow, being able to do what you love, and being able to talk to the people you love, and being able to check on them and see how they're doing. And like obviously we're going on a different route here, but even for my clients, dude, like that's why for me, like I don't just coach these people. Like I like to know like what's going on in their lives. Like I've had clients hit me up and be like, "Do my son's sick with this?" And I'm like, "Dude, if I could read their blood work or do anything for that individual, please do let me know. I want to provide value to that, because I don't just care about you as an X to the nose person. You're not just paying my bills or whatever the case may be. I actually care about you as a human being." And that's one thing that I feel like we could all focus on as just people, is just like caring about each other as human beings and not looking at each other as like, well, this person provides this in my life, like, or this person gives me this, like actually like having real connections with people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It is also really tough too now, because when you try your best to be like a good human and you love people properly and, you treat people the right way and, you are a give first person, whether that be a relationship or a friendship or, you invest a lot into someone else, and for someone to be like taken from you were saying like, well, what's the point? Like, it's hard. Like when you lose that person, because it's so tragic, it's so quick, and it's like the rug just gets pulled from you. So, but it's also like, there's also still a lot of other people in your life that need that, like Prabh said, that need you to continue to show up for them and still be the man you need to be. And,
Man, you lean on people, lean on them.
Yeah, I mean, it is obviously really sad when that time comes. But like Prabh said, if you're able just to take like one small positive thought, and kind of build on that, that can really make a difference instead of dwelling and, asking all the questions, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've been training for over 15 years now, and I was too lazy to track anything training-wise for about the first 10 years because science-based training's for pussies. But I kept hitting plateaus from burnout, fatigue, joint issues, and injuries, and other factors that at the time I didn't really fully understand, realizing not everyone is built to handle the intense and same workload and injury resilience as Tom Platz and Ronnie Coleman, sad face. I wanted to speed run that shit, but the reality is dudes that have always known their body best are the ones that have been lifting for at least a decade. Shit takes a long ass time to figure out. I started tracking all my training on the Notes app on iPhone because I don't know what paper is. Until recently, I started using the RP Hypertrophy app. The RP Hypertrophy app spoon feeds you step-by-step workouts tailored towards whatever your focus is, or you can customize the workout yourself. Well-educated coaches have always cost $250 to $500 or more a month. I'm paying $500. That's like 10 bottles of testosterone. But if you're not competing or you don't have the money to spend, the app will adjust your program for you every week to maximize your long-term growth. It'll base this on your pump, how fatigued you feel, how your joints feel, and more. It takes in everything to account. None of which I took into account in college because the only accounting I did was counting how many dumpies were in my class. Look, there's a titty. If you don't believe in science-based training, you don't got to do no 3 RIR shit. You can just hoist heavy steel. And track it because we all know that the people who say that they remember their weights, sets, and reps every week are full of shit. IMO, there's a sort of middle ground where you track your progress and make sure all the variables are right in your food, sleep, gear, progressive overload, and then you go to the gym and slam those heavy PRs until your blood pressure is higher than Miley Cyrus. If you're still unsure, they've got a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you still don't like it and it gives you a bad tan, you can get your money back. That way, when you compete at your next show, your tan doesn't cost you the first place that you so well deserve. So go to the link in the description below, or you go to rpstrength.com/Nile and use code Nile at checkout. That's rpstrength.com/Nile, code Nile at checkout. Craig Elias asks, Tren or MK677? Stop.
Both.
Stop. No. Do you actually like MK?
I've actually never taken MK.
Oh, ever?
Never.
Do you have an appetite issue? Do you ever, or do you feel like you can? I feel like you can scarf down food. I've seen it.
People say that it helps your appetite. I've taken it. I've noticed no appetite gain from it.
Really?
None.
That's crazy.
It's crazy because I know some people do and some people don't. It's so weird. The one thing I'm supposed to get from this drug, I didn't even get.
That's wild. That's actually cool for me to hear because I got ravenously fucking hungry on that shit, bro. Yeah, I will eat the entire pantry. Everything.
I mean, now you know how I am already, bro. Those brownies don't stand a chance.
Andy's gonna have to send me some heavyweight bars, man. I've been trying to get my hands on them. They
oh
sell
my
out
god,
so
dude,
quick.
those are so insane. Not even sponsored by them or anything, bro. They just sent us like some free bars. Jesus Christ,
same.
those are the most dense things that I've ever had on the entire planet.
So good.
That's the problem. That's the one thing I'm worried about. Like Jared's like, dude, insulin sensitivity isn't a problem. I think it's a problem for me. I think it's a huge problem for me. If Patrick isn't like, if I'm not getting a program from Patrick, I will have sugar every single day.
Yeah, what's your go-to?
Day.
Your go-to sugar?
It's actually just one thing. It's cookies, brownies, and ice cream.
All right, but okay, like, are we talking like Oreos, cookies from the grocery store? Are you talking like crumble? Like, what kind of cookies are we talking here?
Like straight up fucking, god damn it, what is it called?
Chips Ahoy.
No, bro, Chips Ahoy. Chunkadunk. Look that shit up. Bro.
You want to hear something?
My God.
You want to hear something really sad?
What?
I knew it was going to happen too. Remember my freezer? I had like 3, 4, 5 boxes of Buckeye brownies, couple Chunkadunk, couple, what's the other cookie? Stuffed cookies, those ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Bro, I started prep and there's still some in the freezer. I did finish them, bro. Like the whole 3-4 months. every week I would have my free meal. I would maybe take like 1 or 2 cookies out, 1 or 2 brownies out. And they're still in there, bro. There's like 10 cookies and 2 brownies. I'm never going to.
How much did you have in there, dude?
A couple $100 worth at least, bro.
That's fire. Okay, cool. Well, send them my way. You know my address.
Let's ship them over.
Ship them over.
Yeah. Josiah asks, do you guys take any spell it wrong, mitochondrial peptides or the hell? He's spelling things wrong. Mitochondrial peptides or nootropic peptides? Maybe he's thinking about like neuroprotective peptides.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot.
Not that I know of. No, I don't really use that many peptides, bro.
No.
I personally don't use anything myself anymore. I'm just on TRT now.
Okay.
I'm happy just the TRT pin in and that's it.
What have you utilized with clients in terms of like mitochondrial peptides? And because I know you just mentioned like BPC and TB, but what about any of the?
Not much, to be honest, man. Personally, for myself, I'm not a huge peptide guy. I'll only use peptides, like the main peptides I use personally. I use MOTS-C at times. I'll use Reta with specific clients. Mm-hmm. Like I said, BPC, TB. I'd use SLU very sporadically with certain people.
I think what I'm trying to ask is like, for example, when have you used MOTS-C with those clients that you have used it with?
Well, I'll use it if I want to boost insulin sensitivity, and I'll use it. I like to use it with females because obviously with females, we don't want viralization. So I don't want them to viralize if we have to use PEDs, X, Y, and Z. So I think peptides from a female perspective are very, very good.
Wait, how does it help with viralization?
It doesn't help with viralization, but obviously if they're using PEDs, right, it's like then they have a chance of viralizing depending on what they're using. Therefore, I want to use peptides.
Oh, you'll try to leverage. Gotcha.
I don't exactly because they can actually see a lot of benefit from peptides. So I'll use MOTS-C with females. Start with a small dose to half a milligram and see response to that. And I'll use it with Reta, females. Obviously, I'll use it with males as well, but I really enjoy using it with females.
Okay, that makes sense. Gotcha. Also, dude, Andy, I don't know what's going on with your house and like your camera every time you film, but you always look like a fucking ghost.
Bro, that's what happened earlier. Remember when my camera, I noticed it and I'm like, let me switch to this other camera I have. And so I unplugged it from the PC. When I tried to put the other camera in, Riverside was like, nope, you can't change cameras. And so I switched back to the old one and then it wouldn't register. And then it was all bad. So I'll have to get like a legit setup. I was actually thinking about buying one of those mics that's like this, like a little mic that you have, getting an actual setup here.
I need to send you some MT2 from Live Alpha Labs.
Bro, I'm not that. We're probably like similar skin tones, bro, to be real.
Yeah, sure, brother.
If anyone doesn't believe me, just go peep the Instagram. I'm not that one.
Do you see how different we look right now on screen?
I look like James Hollingshead right now, bro.
Oh,
just
shit.
a straight ghost.
I'll send you some MT2. It's okay. It's super cheap with my discount code. Yeah, I've been using a lot of I don't use MOTS-C or any of these things anymore, but honestly, GHKCU, aside from the injection shit, that's just kind of annoying.
Whenever you use that for your skin and stuff?
Yeah, I've been just trying to use it a lot more recently too, especially since for some reason this acting, like you see some like a couple spots on my forehead and the spots on my chest still, like it's taken, I think I had acne for like 10 weeks post cycle. And even like a week after my my prep was over and the cycle was over, my blood work was good. You've seen my blood work. So I'm kind of just surprised that it was so persistent when normally it's not as persistent with me. I normally have those Asian genetics. So I'm trying to utilize some of that. And honestly, my favorite stuff have been the neuroprotective peptides, just because I'm a little bit concerned in terms of the fact that, we're using gear for how many years on end. So I think it's just a little bit of a concern. And also I use things like doxylamine, antihistamines to help go to sleep, which is also a higher risk for dementia. So anything like Dehexa or Neuropept, Bromantane, anything that I feel like is going to be a little bit neuroprotective, I feel like that's been really beneficial. And I think I want to just continue to use that. And also just straight up just nice is Solank. I don't know if you guys have ever used that, the nasal sprays. I do that from Live Alpha Labs too. All the oxidative stress stuff I get from APR, which is Mike. That's the homie that's like, he and I are actually going to go to Austin this next week, and we're going to go check out the gyms and shit there. But he's got some of the best like oxidative stress, like compounded stuff. So, and you're going to have like what is it? Yeah. Like, he has, neuroprotective compounded supplement that has like phosphatidylserine in it, for example. Then he has like a full spectrum compounded supplement that has NAC and TUDCA and liposomal glutathione. And then he has like an injectable supplement that has injectable glutathione and NAC in it and glutamine and just a bunch of other shit. Dude, it's honestly fucking awesome, which I feel like not enough people in the industry utilize because it's still kind of new.
Yeah, 100% using all those things that are, I mean, a lot of those things are like, dude, I mean, every small thing makes a huge difference too. I think that's what a lot of people don't realize, you know, even just like bare basic supplements make a huge difference, especially if you take them consistently year round.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. If you guys do ever, like when you do go on stage, I know we have like our whole meditative little experience there with like your music backstage and shit and getting there early, but straight up not trying to put like any like tape on a wound or some shit. That's not even the fucking phrase, but Solank was so nice with my last show. Try some of that shit. Solank just kind of like dulls your anxiety. It kind of just throws your anxiety away. What's up?
Also, I told Andy, I said, you'll have to give it a go. I'm done competing forever. So it'll be Andy to give it a go.
So he says for now.
Speaking of peptides though, BPC and TB combo mix, I actually put it somewhere last night that I never tried, and I'm gonna experiment with that.
That sounds so wrong.
No, I injected it somewhere. I've never put it. Like, you know, if you're having elbow, if you're having elbow pain, you know,
that sounds terrible. What?
Oh,
bro's trying to do some growth.
No, I want to see if Niall can guess where I put it, because I don't think you'll be able to guess.
In your dick hole.
No, I put it in my knees.
I was about to say knees.
Yeah. I was a little bit skeptical, but then I heard Ian talking about it. He's like, yeah, just sling pin, just found a soft spot and just jammed it in there. And I was like, all right, I've been having some knee pain when I train legs, which I absolutely hate because I hate how limiting it feels when you're training. Yeah. And I just went for it, bro.
I'm always curious what the susceptibility for sepsis is doing that. But I just feel like most people have just tried it and it just hurts, but they fucking don't have any issues.
I'm going to see, bro. We will see.
All right. You keep me updated with that. And also you got to tell me too what your stage weight ends up being. We're going to have to catch up on this again, do another pod so we figure out just how much weight you gained in this off season, because you blew the fuck up after that rebound, man.
I got you, bro. I'll let you know. Probably like
crazy.
Probably like 220 or something.
I will tell you the truth. He will push a little bit more drugs this prep as well. We will push a little bit higher.
I mean, like you're heavier, so I would expect, honestly.
Yeah. Damn.
His trend was only 100 milligrams per week last prep. I do want to bump that up a little bit.
Like 150.
Well, I honestly with him, I might try to go to 250 just to see what it looks like. Just see if he starts to have any negative side effects from it.
There goes my sleep.
If he starts to have side effects, you know, from a sleep perspective or an inflammation perspective, or he's not feeling good on it, we could always drop the dose. But you know, it's just something to put just to see if it works, and if it doesn't, it's okay. We could always drop it down.
You don't got no problems with 100, right?
No,
I'm pretty smooth sailing on 100.
I kind of like it, bro. I kind of like it. I don't know. I might want to keep it there. I don't know. But then again, I don't know. It's kind of like whatever the coach says, you know?
Yeah. All right. Corey Zik asks, how do you structure refeeds?
So honestly, personally, for me, there is no structure to it. It's just based on daily check-ins and when I feel like the athlete truly needs it. If performance is dropping, if I feel like their weight's stalling out to certain points, if I feel like the physique's starting to look softer. If it's so flat to the point where it's starting to look soft, I'll re-implement. But it's kind of based around those factors.
I think that's most coaches. But like, when it's refeed day, how do you structure that day?
Oh, in terms of like the actual day.
Yeah.
So if Andy, for example, is a 230-pound bodybuilder, I'll drop his protein to about 215 grams just to stabilize blood sugar per meal. And then I'll buff his carbohydrates up to like 600 to 700 grams just to see the response from that. And then fats I'll keep at a moderate spot, 50 to about 55. And then just see kind of how that goes. And then from there, either increase the next day, maybe give him another same thing the next day. It just depends on how the first day goes, of course.
Okay, gotcha. And on average, what is his baseline carbohydrates during that time?
So if his baseline carbs are like 300 to 350, that's where like normally he is during like, 5-6 weeks out. And then from there, that's when I'll start giving those bigger refeeds.
Okay, cool. That makes sense. That's cool. Oh, I don't know if this is a question I can ask, but we're going to ask it anyways. Tony Lee Fit asked, what happened to Precision Elite and why did you and the other coaches leave?
So I can't get into it in depth. I'll just kind of give my perspective on it. Personally, for myself, I just needed to do what's best for me. Essentially, I branched out. I essentially decided to leave the company myself. I terminated my own contract just because I needed to. Number one, I moved away from where the company was, and from there, I also, like I said, I don't want to get too much into depth because this is just kind of trying to turn into something. I don't want to turn into something negative, but I just need to do what's best for me. Essentially, that was the main reason.
Okay, gotcha. I mean, I think you're a fucking phenomenal coach, man. So sometimes when I see certain coaches that I think are pretty damn awesome, like even like Tony Burton's coach, I just feel like
Jacoby's phenomenal.
and they're like part of like a big. I don't know. I always feel like some of these coaches can just branch out, but I understand when it comes to like business, it's not as easy. You know what I mean?
It's also fun to work for a team, though, man. To be honest with you, like I currently am in negotiations with another team. Talk to them and discussing on joining, because I think it provides a different experience for the athletes, to be a part of something as a collective unit, the good camaraderie,
I see.
Just having all these people to have other people to lean on. Like me going to, for example, I went to nationals with one of my best friends and we're both coaches and we were in the Airbnb together and his athletes were talking to my athletes and they were both excited about going on stage and they were having a grand old time. And then you had a guy like Andy there with us and a couple of my other buddies, and like the team environment was so fun. Like these guys were just bouncing ideas off each other, like having a great time. Like it was super fun.
And they both turned pro too.
Oh, that's sick. That's
Just
fucking
like
so sick, dude.
Cherry on top.
It'd be like one of the best weekends ever, honestly. No, I totally get that. Actually, I think the team and the community and the bodybuilding is what makes it, in my opinion. It's really the reason I even want to move to Vegas right now. It's literally just how fucking fun it is.
Yep.
So,
and that's what I love about it, man. Like even like I love when my other athletes support Andy. And I love when, my athletes get so hyped to like, dude, Andy just messaged me on Instagram. Like, he's one of your best athletes. And like, he's still looking out for us. And, Andy went to nationals with me and he was taking care of my other athletes. He was driving them around. He was taking them to their check-ins. Like, and, that shows a lot of like team effort. And, the same way all my athletes would show up for Andy is supporting him, using his codes, whatever companies he's affiliated with. So it's just a great environment when you are a part of something.
Yeah. Yeah, agree. Beck Call, who is a regular of the show, asks, and probably would help too if you looked at his profile. He says, I'm 20, natural, and have done 2 shows. What should I focus on perfecting?
So number one thing is perfecting training, in my opinion, right? Perfecting the basics, ensuring that you're training every muscle group properly, not just moving weight around, but moving it within an effective rep range, moving it within, a proper movement pattern, ensuring that you're dialing in your nutrition around what he specifically needs. Him being a natural athlete as well, I think he could push his body fat a little bit higher in the off seasons compared to some guys who aren't enhanced. Just, because I feel like natural guys do need a little bit extra to push some more tissue on. So I don't mind them getting a little bit softer than guys who are enhanced.
What do you feel like that?
I don't know, man. I just feel like I've noticed with natural guys, like keeping them leaner in off seasons doesn't yield as much tissue growth when they diet back down. I don't know why it is personally. It's just what I've noticed with natural guys. maybe it's because they aren't enhanced. Maybe it's because when their body fat levels are a little bit higher, that their hormones aren't as low. I'm not quite sure what it is.
You know what's interesting is like old school mentality. I feel like I would say that like, okay, you're on gear, you can push even harder, right? But in terms of body fat percentage, I feel like I agree with you. I feel like I see that natural guys have to get to a slightly higher body fat percentage if they want to achieve that higher level of muscle mass. It's kind of been difficult for them to gain in the first place. It's an interesting thing. It's almost like the gear. Yeah. It's like the gear allows you to push past those plateaus that those natural guys have
100%.
Without having to, honestly, just regardless of like the body fat percentage. So the gear really just kind of like lets go of those plateaus, kind of, which increases your cap.
Natural guys also have to be more meticulous with training and stuff as well. I feel like because, recovery demand isn't as high because PEDs aren't in the play. So there's a lot of factors that go into that as well.
Yeah.
This is probably just simply, I mean, this is definitely a little bit of bro science, if not a fucking lot of bro science, but like you really do have like this body composition cap as a natural. And those guys that are going to be higher in some level of body fat percentage that they set out regularly are likely, if they're consuming a higher amount of calories, are probably likely to be able to hold a slightly higher level of muscle mass over the course of a respective, reasonable amount of time. But if you're like enhanced, that body composition cap just doesn't really exist as much,
Yep.
Like your fucking body composition can be fucking wild like Joe's if you can get there someday.
100%.
It's just like fucking, it's insane. I can't even like imagine like the level of body fat percentage that he technically really has with that amount of muscle mass when he gets to like that level at the Texas Pro where his back was just
Healed.
Stripped out.
Yeah. And he's that heavy at 5'7".
Every athlete grows at a different body fat percentage, right? Like every individual has a set point that they grow the best at. Some guys grow the best at 10%. Some guys grow the best at 13%. Some guys grow their best at 15%. So everybody's so different in that realm. Some guys can't grow in a leaner state. Some guys have to get a little bit heavier and a little bit, softer to grow. So it's just so different person to person based.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do believe that can be changed and adjusted over the course of like several years though. I think I actually changed my body fat percentage to be pretty low after trying to stay shredded for social media for like 3 to 4 years. Literally didn't gain any muscle whatsoever, but for sure, like the amount of calories I needed to gain and also being able to sit at a lower body fat percentage was just so much easier after those 4 years.
Yep.
At Kitch4 asks, what are the most important things that what's the most important thing that you guys learned this past season?
I would probably say, like we talked about earlier, finding how to ride that midline through the highs and through the lows. Because you're going to have more losses than wins most of the time when you're competing. And, if you get lucky and you nail it on that day, you'll win at some point. But it's very, very hard to just like ride the midline, either outcome, right? So whether that's a win or a loss, like just continuing to learn how to ride that midline and, just stay even keeled throughout is probably the biggest thing that I've learned, because obviously I never had a pro win. So having it and going to Olympia, I was like on top of the world. And then you do a show a couple of months later and you lose. You're like, fuck, did the first 3 wins, did they even mean anything? Like, did it completely take away any credibility that I have as an athlete? So it was a challenge to be able to find that midline.
I think the main thing is success isn't guaranteed even with perfection. It doesn't matter how perfect you are as a bodybuilder, as a coach, how meticulous you are, how much you nail it. Nothing is guaranteed. Somebody could show up and put in a 70% effort in our sport, 80% effort, and have genetic tools and still beat you. So I think it's about understanding that even, through perfection, that there's more to this sport than just, nailing your X's and O's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. Nicholas De Pietro asks, if someone was doing multiple shows, what is your ideal time in between them and why?
I would probably say doing back-to-back shows like week after week is probably not ideal. I think like a 2-week break in between, because obviously I think like a 6-week gap, an 8-week gap, that's kind of stretching it a little far. Then you got to have the conversation like, are you going to come off drugs for 2 weeks and then get back on? Are you going to come off just orals and leave oils in? So I think 2 weeks is good, because you can kind of like maybe eat a little bit after the show, pull down, reset, and then freshen the body up again and then peak again, versus like week after week is a little bit more of a challenge.
I agree. I think 2 weeks is a perfect timeline. It's kind of what me and Andy had discussed this year of like, we want to rather be in the 2-week window rather than the back-to-back weeks.
Okay. That's good to know.
Just to, like I said, just to preserve the legs and not having to do cardio, like, right after a show and then start getting back down.
I really want to try the back-to-back shows, especially after you. But it just sounds nice not to have to be in prep for so fucking long like I was last year. But honestly, my ideal situation would have been 2 weeks too. Just 3 weeks was a little bit too long, man. I had 3 weeks in between 3 shows, so that I was on prep for. I think it was an 18-week prep, and then 6 weeks on top of that, because 3 weeks in between each show. So what is that? 24 weeks. I was almost half the year on prep. Versus, I mean, if you're doing 2 weeks, for example, I felt like I really needed just a week to kind of reset and almost like be a little bit less stressed. But then 2 weeks was a little bit too much extra before peak week, because then I almost felt like I was pushing for too long.
As an athlete too, like
perfect.
As an athlete, you get pretty like anxious. Like if I feel like I was peeled and I just competed, let's say I placed really well, I wouldn't want to sit there for 3 weeks just waiting. Like I would want to pick the next show. Like I feel like 3 weeks is a long time just to sit and wait until you get back up there again. It's hard enough when you're on peak week, when you're 2 weeks out, you're so excited to just like get on stage and present the look and all these things. So a 3 week gap is a pretty long time to just sit there and wait.
If you can push yourself to be like, if you can push yourself to grind and keep just getting content out during that time, then it's kind of fire, because you get a lot of shredded content. But most of us just want to be on the couch.
When you're trying to, I think that 3 week gap is fine if you weren't healed for your first show. Some guys will show up at like 85, 90% for their first show and be like, I'm going to improve into the season. Then it's okay. You're just going to continue to improve. Those drugs will make you harder and drier. But I don't like to use drugs for an extended period of time, especially orals. If there's a 6 week gap between a show, now you have to start playing with those things. Are you pulling drugs out for a certain amount of time? Are we integrating at what time? Is the look even going to be the same because you removed the saturation of the drug and now you re-added it? Is it going to look the same? So it's so many variables.
Yeah, I agree. Plus, I thought that I could have gone leaner, and I thought I was getting a little bit leaner. But looking back on the shows, I feel like my body fat percentage was just about the same at all 3 shows. It was just a slight difference in water distribution, water weight, and then having that oral in. C. Jeffrey asks, what do you implement in Andy's recent offseason that made him the most progress? I know we talked about this a little bit, so if you had to choose, what would you say?
I don't even think it's me. I always joke with people. I got lucky, man, as a coach. Some coaches will never have an Olympian. Some coaches will never get an athlete at the genetic level to get there. I think it's actually a testament to Andy's consistency and work ethic that he's put in the work to continually progress every offseason, nail every reverse perfectly. I just think I got lucky in the sense to work with an athlete at that high level to showcase my coaching ability, because, I always tell people, once you get an athlete that talented, then you could truly show who you are as a coach in terms of taking into the pinnacle of the sport. So I just think from my point of view, it's just I got blessed to get an athlete at that level who's pretty much perfect in every aspect of following the plan.
Yeah.
It's just consistency.
Which is really fucking hard as a coach, is having consistency. Is because you should just fucking these athletes all change like day by day. Every single show is different. So, I mean, having consistency as a coach is, I think, a lot more of a feat than people realize.
Also, too, like, I'm nowhere near the level of coach that Prabh is, but it's like, who's to say you actually get a client that's following the plan 100% day after day after day? I mean, you want to hope that they are, but I mean, you don't know that they're training efficiently like they should, or they're not missing any shots, or they're maybe snacking on their diet when they shouldn't be. Like, those are out of your control as a coach.
I always joke with people who are, in the bodybuilding space, look at a coach for not their work with their highest level athlete and their genetic elite. Look at their work between their guys who are in the mid tier, the guys who aren't the supremely gifted. What do those guys look like? In my opinion, that shows you quality of coaching across the board, because did you turn the average Joe into something special? That's a really cool feeling as well.
Mm-hmm. Beige NZ asks, electrolyte ratios, sodium, potassium, magnesium, and calcium for enhanced lifters. Much love.
Shit, in what context? Like pre-training, pre-contests?
Probably just the overall mineral point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I will be honest, I don't even have it off the top of my head. I have like a certain cheat sheet that I'll look out for every athlete that I want them at. And then from there, I'll increase minerals or decrease minerals based on feel. So for example, if, pumps, how much fluid they're holding, how they're feeling, that there's so many factors that go into that. Obviously, none of us are going to get blood tests every so often to see where our mineral output is. But obviously just having a cheat sheet and like basing every athlete around how they feel, because everybody's very different on what ratio you specifically want.
Gotcha. Okay. Stevie Yoke asks, how much do you charge?
So I charge for a 6 month, $375 a month, and for 12 months, $350 a month. Paid
That's a
in
good
full,
price.
$2,000. Paid in full, 12 month, $3,600.
Nice. Fire.
I honestly don't like to charge a super crazy amount, because I want to give a lot of people an opportunity to work with me, man. I like working, dude. Like, I love bodybuilding coaching. Like, I thoroughly enjoy coaching athletes. Like, I like when a check-in comes in. Like, I see a check-in come in, I'm like, hell yeah, man. I know this guy's going to look sick today. Like, let me go ahead and open this thing up. Like, let's see what the progress he made today or this week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I can tell you it's a lot better than being an engineer. That shit sucked, dude. Fuck, I was just doing like CAD programming, like just fucking literally like creating.
On the laptop all day.
Yeah. Or like falling asleep in between emails because people take forever when you're in the industry. Yeah. Micah Camp asks, how do you feel about the steroid craze of social media?
I think honestly, I think it's good that like a podcast like this, like people are transparent on there, but also it depends on the person to like take it with a grain of salt, right? Like I genuinely hope like, an 18-year-old kid doesn't watch this and they were like, oh, well, Andy was on 900, 600, 300 and he looks this way. That's what I'm going to run.
Yeah. Well,
so
hopefully I just hope that the long term or the long format allows people to hear the entire story, because I think most people that listen to this podcast I've noticed in the comments since I've started this maybe 3 years ago, as it's progressed, so has the top comments of kind of acknowledging that people start lower or people titrate up doses.
That's good.
People end up running bigger doses as they grow bigger. It just like seems to just be making more sense and just being more common in the comments.
People need to be smart as well, man. At the end of the day, if you want to take PEDs, take them at a point where your mind is fully developed as a male. Take them at a smart age. And then from there, do all your back end stuff. Get your blood work done. Take your health supplementation. Ensure you're staying as healthy as possible and mitigating all the risks you possibly can. I'm not saying there's going to be zero risk, but just mitigate as much as possible if you go down that route.
Yeah, yeah. Plus, I also think he's like referring more to like the steroid craze of like TikTok and Gen Z social media right now, which I think is just always going to be there. I think people are always going to...
And I think also listen
there's always going to be some kind of drug glorification somewhere.
Yeah, but listening to your podcast is very valuable for these people, right? Because they hear real bodybuilders or real coaches prescribing cycles based on, level of athlete. Like I'm never going to give my amateur starting out Andy cycle. It's like, for example, I turned a guy pro at nationals this year. His first cycle ever was 300 milligrams of testosterone. His that cycle into nationals where he turned pro was 300 milligrams of test and 300 milligrams of masteron. So it's about like getting the most from the least. And the crazy thing is, if you have the genetics for it, this kid went from 162 pounds on the men's physique stage to 176 pounds at nationals, growing on 300 milligrams of testosterone. He put on
sick.
April to December, 14 pounds of stage tissue. And people will be like, that's completely a lie. But it's like, dude, I have all the PDFs and everything to showcase that. And Andy actually knows the kid. He's from Fresno as well. But some people just respond that well. And when diet, training, PEDs, everything is locked in and perfect, you're going to see a substantial amount of progress.
Would you consider him a hyper-responder? Is what I was going to ask.
We've known it. And from the first day we met him, it's been like, dude, when you decide to do your first cycle, and he got a little bit older this year. He was 28. And I actually told him, I was like, dude, if you ever want to have aspirations to make the Olympia, it's probably smart now to start now or never. If you want to just stay natural, that's okay. But then we should probably go down the natural route, competing in the natural pro league, natural IFBB shows, X, Y, and Z, because that is going to be your best bet to make it to the pinnacle of the sport.
Gotcha.
I think it's also crazy too, just how TikTok and like social media has glorified it so much. Cause like 10 years ago, if you're on the sauce, like it was so hidden, like Fluid always talks about how it's kind of like a cult kind of thing where like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, like nobody really talked openly about dosages and what they took. Now you have like a 16-year-old on his TikTok. He's like pinning today. Let's go. Like it's the cool thing to do,
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. Was it you who told me that Ron Harris had a podcast talking about my podcast? Saying like, how the hell is this kid having a bunch of people talking about their illegal drug use?
I don't know. I don't really watch Ron Harris, so I don't know.
Someone told me that recently. Fucking funny.
The main thing, and we're not telling anybody to take anything. We're not telling anybody what they should do. It's more so just like providing people with real value and education on what the best and the highest level athlete in the world have to do to make it to that level. And some don't, like some people can use a lot less and still have phenomenal physiques and be Mr. Olympia or whatever the case may be. So it's about like every person who watches the podcast should more so realize what their body needs. Like just because one guy takes a gram doesn't mean you need a gram. You might need 300 milligrams. You might need more. It's so person dependent.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Sidetrack, if you guys ever have any recommendations for guests that you guys would want to have on the podcast, and all of you guys in the audience too, like please freaking let me know because it helps.
I love the pod.
You start running out.
I love the pod that you do with Justin Compton.
That was awesome.
I think he's so hilarious, bro. Just how blunt he is. Like I love it.
I want you to have Patrick on.
I'm
fascinated with Patrick's work.
The amount of times I've had people asking me to put Patrick on.
Yeah.
Wait, have you had? You should get like Fuad on or something.
I've had Fuad on.
Oh, you have? Yeah. Yep. I thought so.
Yeah, I could probably have Fuad on again. I'd be up to be honest, I actually wanted to ask if Fuad and Ian would come on at the same time, do a three-man pod. Cool. I think that would be hilarious. That'd be super fucking funny.
If you could get One Punch on here, that would be pretty sick too.
I had on one of the last podcasts, I had a fuck ton of people upvote someone asking Seth Ferosi to come on.
Oh yeah.
But I've been trying to get in contact with Seth for so long, and they never respond to me. So I don't know. I need more people to blow up his page and comment on his posts to be on Nile Nega's podcast. And I feel like finally he'll reach out at some point. But
yeah,
I think I'm just not on his priority list. Maybe. I don't know.
The podcast will continue to grow, bro. Trust me. And then everyone will want to get on it.
I just want him to talk about his 4 Androls a day, bro.
Yeah.
That's probably why he doesn't want to come on.
You've had some really good guests on, man. Though, like I've really enjoyed the Tuttle podcast. Like I thought that was a phenomenal podcast. You've had a lot of good guests on, provided a lot of good value in the industry and a lot of true value.
I honestly don't want to talk about I don't want everything to be all about drugs, of course, but it's just the easiest thing for me personally to talk about in pertaining to me and my life because I've had so many experiences from hormonal changes as well as experiences with friends or experiences with my own relationships where these girls have gone through crazy hormonal changes through birth control, changes through SSRIs, changes through even going on TRT or testosterone. I had this with my first ex in college. She had PMDD from exacerbated through these things. And it's just like, man, I can't explain anything else. Like training doesn't change your personality like that. Nutrition doesn't change your personality like that. But something as simple as inserting or just like fucking taking a pill of birth control will change who you fucking are, change the things that you like, change how you react to things. It's insane. So it's just so easy to talk about because I don't know, you can always become better and you can always learn about these avenues. There's a lot. So
100%.
yeah. Also, thank you, Andy, for pushing me to finally create the merch shirts.
There you go.
I got to be real honest. I'm going to be real with everybody. As much as I want to be like all the homies on Instagram that like to post their flashy cars and be like, yeah, like I made fucking like 3,000 orders. No one has ordered the shirts, bro. On our podcast, we had so many comments saying like, yes, post the shirts. I'll get the shirts. I feel like hardly anyone has ordered. So
I would, honestly, I didn't even know about it until I think one of the last episodes you did. It was like a mid, like in the middle of the video, I think you had an ad for it or something like that. I would slap it on like the beginning of the video or something like that before the intro.
It was. I have slapped it on in the beginning. I need to recheck if there was a mistake or something, but I'm pretty sure it's in the beginning in every episode. So
I think it was, to be honest. I don't remember, but I remember seeing it in the video and I was like, oh, he did release the merch. I would slap a post on Instagram too because I don't know. Yeah. I mean, you got to put it out there everywhere. I still got to order mine.
If you guys
order as well.
It helps me a lot too. Plus, it also just means a lot that you guys would even buy it. But I've had like, I'm just being honest with you guys. I've had like less than 20 orders, and there's like 30 to 40,000 people that watch each podcast each time. So
I also just love supporting the homies, man.
If you guys have any ideas for something that you would actually want to purchase, like I'll probably throw out a gray version and a white version so there's different colors. But if you guys, I thought I should keep it simple, just like have just like yours controlled, like just have transparent across, just because I think most people like simpler styles.
100%.
If there's something that you guys think that you want or that you'd like, then like please let me know, like in the comments or something. Because
don't even worry now.
Sure you guys get what you want.
Don't worry now, bro. Because once people listen to this podcast and they get to this part in the pod, they're gonna be like, "Oh fuck, I feel bad." Like I'm gonna work.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
I think with most people, like for myself, like if I'm wearing a shirt personally myself, as long as it just has a small logo, I'll wear anything. I just don't like when it's too loud and too big. Like for example, like Andy.
You don't like Controlled Insanity?
No, it's not that I don't like it. It's just for me personally, my taste. I don't like it super loud and big logo. I'll support like Andy. I wear Andy's Olympia shirt around, and that's having another grown man on my back with his 3 pro wins. But like, if it's supporting the homies, I'll wear it. I don't care about style like that. Like I'm a simple. I like to coach. I like to bodybuild, and I like to just kick it. Like those are my main things. I don't really do much outside of that.
I was thinking about throwing up some like some sayings that I like made up and shit. Wait, like I posted on the Trend. One of the Trend twins. The Trend twins posted this post with Urs because they were in Berlin, fucking at a crazy deep dark rave. And I just commented, what was it? I commented just arm pumps and creatine bumps. And I was thinking about putting those. I was thinking about putting that on a shirt, on a transparent merch shirt.
First,
I don't know if you guys would that, or there was another one that I got an idea from like this reel. It was like this old man that had like he had a paper taped to his back, and the shirt said, "Please don't talk to me. I only have 1 hour to work out, and I love talking."
Yeah, I seen that. I saw that today.
That was fire, dude. I want to put that on a shirt too. I feel like that'd be sick.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
Let's finish up this last Q&A. Shit. Sorry, the story's gone, so I always lose it, so then I have to refind it. All right. So peak week protocols by Ghost. That was one of the questions. We talked about that. Harrison asks, how has the off season gone so far? We talked about that. Oh, we did ask, for example, when is body fat too high? Where do you feel like body fat is too high for clients on average, Prabh? And then Andy, where do you feel like yours personally does it get too high?
Like we talked about, it's so person dependent, but anything past like 15 to 16% for me personally is too high. Mm-hmm. I don't think you need to get much fatter than that. And another key mechanism to that's going to be where is insulin sensitivity stay on a decent spot where we could at least partition some nutrients properly. So those are the two things I'm looking at. Percentage based, but I'm also looking at like, can I still see some detail here where I can see where we're progressing, or is it just all mush everywhere to the point where I'm like, dude, I don't even know if we're growing any muscle anymore. Like I just know there's weight getting added and the weight's going up on the scale, but that's all I could see.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah, I would agree. Probably within that like 12 to 15 range. And you got to think if someone's like starting to creep into like the high teens or the low 20s, like how good is their insulin sensitivity at that point, especially from like a competitive bodybuilding standpoint, right? Like if you're competing once a year, also getting that high in body fat is just going to make your prep a whole lot harder. It's just ultimately more fat you have to pull off. So
yeah. Okay. I kind of want to show you guys what I look like in my off season, like the peak of my off season, and ask you what body fat percentage you think it looks like.
I'm down.
Should I do that?
Yep.
Okay. I'm gonna do it real quick. Oh shit. Also, while I do that, one of the questions was Danny Allen for Andy. What was the stack? Well, honestly, maybe both of you guys, but what was the stack for Andy during off season after he got his pro card?
Oh, I didn't coach him.
I believe because I was working with another coach at the time. Honestly, I think right after I turned pro at USA's, that was end of July. I believe from like August to like November, which is only 3 months, I was just on like a cruise phase because I was right after a show. And then I believe around that time, that's when I started messaging Prabh, like trying to see like if maybe he'd be a good fit and what he thinks about my current situation and if he would take me on as a client. And then from there, I think as soon as I locked on with Prabh, I sent him like my most recent blood work or something. And he was like, okay, this is good. Like we can start a cycle from here. I think that's what we did. So
I was going to say as well, I got to give Andy a lot of love. A lot of pros, at times might want free coaching. Just so people here know for Andy's character and the type of human he is, he paid me for a whole year. Coming to me as a pro, I had no pros on my roster at that point. But Andy was still willing to not be like, dude, you should coach me for free because I'm a pro, a high-level athlete. No, he paid me for a whole year.
Okay, I see.
Which is admirable from my point of view to be like, damn, like, an athlete who put his trust into me, took care of me.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's totally admirable. Okay, I'm going to try to show you this picture, see what you think, because I'm going to be honest, at the peak of my off season, it did not feel like it was 15. Fuck, dude. Damn it. When was it? This is embarrassing. Maybe I need the editors to cut out this part. Me trying to figure out math in calendar months. 6 weeks before November. So maybe the middle of May is when I started.
Okay.
March, April, May. So this is my back. I don't know. Can you guys see that?
Yeah, I can see it.
That's my back. And then this is my side shot. I look really fucking soft, dude.
So hard to see.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, okay. I can see it. Yep. That's low. Yep.
There we go. Yeah. Yeah, that glute and that side leg, a little bit soft there now.
But honestly, looking at that, that's where that was at the end of your off season.
I think it was towards the end. Yeah.
Yep. I wouldn't mind pushing somebody there as a coach personally to that.
Really?
To that, and not at all. I don't think that's. I think that's lean enough where we could still get you peeled for a show.
Okay, because I was like, shit, dude, there's like no abs. I mean, maybe from far away it looks like there's abs, but I don't know. This fucking the lighting is.
I could give I would say honestly, looking at those pictures, your body fat percentage is probably. Well, first question I'll ask you is where do you hold the bulk of your body fat? What's the last thing to lean out?
Stomach and love handles.
Okay, that's what I figured. I would say your body fat percentage there is about 15.
Yeah.
To 15 to 16% is what I would say personally.
You got to say 17. Tell us.
What was your weight there? Well, I just want to do a calculation.
I think I was I was above 205 if I remember correctly.
Because we'll just do your 205 just for the sake of it, right?
Yeah.
I'm saying you're 15%. What did you end up on stage at?
Well, the lowest I got was 180 before the carb ups.
What's crazy is if you're
179.5 to 180.
If you were 15%, you would have been about 184 on stage. So you're probably around 17% there.
Oh my God, I knew it.
Because just based on math, right? What I calculated is essentially we'll just say you go on stage at 5% body fat. So if you're 17%, you're 12% to lose from that 205.
I felt fucking fat, man. I felt fucking fat, dude.
Yeah,
I don't want to do that again.
Right at 80, depleted.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to have a talk with Patrick. I want to stay a little leaner this offseason for sure. Plus, having an offseason when you're single is not as fun.
I mean, realistically, you're 187 right now.
Why is that?
Wait, realistically, I'm what?
You're 187 right now, right?
Yeah, I'm 187 right now.
Yeah, you could probably honestly get to like 212-ish and still be in really good condition. I usually say like you should be able to get about 30 to 35 pounds above stage weight in really good condition if you use drugs properly and rebound properly.
Okay, cool.
Like that's about like what Andy gained from Olympia. He was 219 and he ended up at like 255 in really good composition.
But awesome. Everybody, I recommend Prabh as a coach. He knows his shit. Well, I ask everybody one last question at the end of every pod that Andy's probably answered twice. If you guys were to disappear from the world tomorrow and you had one message you could send to the entire world today, what would the message be?
Go ahead, Andy.
Oh, you want me to answer it again now? All right. Well, what we talked about earlier, I think it would be reach out to that person, reach out to that loved one, because life is so valuable and life is so precious. You know, you never really know when something bad could potentially happen. So I think it's good to just like be yourself, spread love, and it's okay to be vulnerable. Bad things are going to happen and you just have to take them in the waves that they come in. And it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be open. But I would say just reach out to that person. You know, life's too short to hold grudges, and life's too short to, not make amends. And, life's too precious just to hold on to anything negative. So if you ever have anything negative with someone in your life, whether that be a friend or a family member, is just to, reach out, because, who knows, you might not be here tomorrow and, they might not be here tomorrow. So that's what I would say.
I'm honestly in a very similar boat. I think the main thing is just not holding grudges. I think giving people grace. You never know what somebody else is going through in life. So, giving people the benefit of the doubt when you can. And always just my biggest thing in life's always been like telling everybody, just be positive. Don't always look at things from a negative perspective. Try to be as positive as possible, because the more positive I see people, the better their lives usually are in terms of, how they function, how they go about their days. Spend time with loved ones. Don't focus so much on materialistic things. Like try to be present in good moments. And I even tell people, try to be present in bad moments as well. Embrace the good and the bad that comes with life and just appreciate it for what it truly is. That would be my main goal that I would tell everybody.
Awesome. Hell yeah. Okay.
I will do one last thing now for you. Not for you, but on your podcast, you guys will be the first people to know. I have officially signed with Team Reform.
Oh, nice. Nice. There we go. Yes, sir. Congrats, bro.
Yeah, congrats.
That's sweet. New journey, bro. That's awesome.
Time for me to switch coaches.
So I wanted to say it on his podcast. That'd be a cool little segue for me.
Yeah, for sure, bro. Awesome. Thanks for coming on, guys. That was awesome. That was dope.
And, hey, Niall, before we hop off, though, you can always send me a text, brother. If you need anything, bro, having a bad day, even just hit me with a FaceTime, bro. Your boy's here for you.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate that, man. That means a lot. The same with both of you guys, honestly.
Yeah.
If you guys ever need anything at all.
If you ever need anything, and we all have our good moments, our bad moments, go through stuff. If you ever need somebody to just listen, somebody to hear you, bro, feel free to reach out. Like I said, I feel like from what you kind of talked about, it's kind of very similar to what, I went through earlier this year. So if there's ever any advice I could give or any help that I could give, or, even just something to listen to, feel free to reach out at any point. I'm always free for the homies. Also, hey, everybody, make sure you go support, buy the t-shirts. Not just saying that, now provides a lot of quality and value with these podcasts. This would not be the norm back in the day where you were able to get PED protocols from high-level athletes, hear about training, hear about nutrition, hear about high-level coaches educating people on, things that can help people progress without having to hire a coach themselves. Like, there's a lot of valuable information here, and that's the beautiful thing about the world today is social media, YouTube. There's so much information out there. And at times a lot, a little bit too much, but use this to your advantage, guys.
I appreciate you guys.
Pre-game.
I appreciate all of you guys. Also, yeah, if there's any chance that you guys like want something in particular, like want it to be sized a certain way or something, or like you don't like anything, there's something that you happen to not like about anything you order from me, any of the sizes or whatever, please let me know that too. So that way I can get it perfect and get exactly what you guys like.
Hell yeah.
Anyway, thanks for coming on, homies. We'll catch y'all sometime soon. Let me know if you need anything at all, and send me those brownies.
Yeah,
I got you, bro.
Freezer things over. We're not using them. All right, guys. Appreciate
Much love, boys. Peace,
y'all.